Chapter 512. Sorry about that. Got carried away. The girl's light and casual tone sounded like she was asking, "How's the weather today?" Yet it made him feel as if it was a voice of death from hell. Song Jing wanted to rush over to Yi Wanwan's rescue initially, but now it was as if his feet were nailed into the floor, and his eyeballs nearly popped out of their sockets. Yes, so cool. She beat up those guys so smoothly and her movements were remarkably natural. They practically made me burn up with anger. But, what exactly is going on here? Why's this sweet and pretty chick suddenly acting like she got possessed by a murderous god? He turned to his captain with a face filled with astonishment, and he noticed that he was in even more shock than he was. His captain was completely dumbfounded. The pain and terror caused Chen Shijie to hug his arm and groan wildly. Enough, that's enough. The girl tossed the gun around in her hands like she didn't care for it, and she picked up the bottle of wine next to her reluctantly. With a crash, it hit the floor. She pressed a sharp piece of broken glass on the man's chest near his heart and said softly, "Then would you like things to get even more thrilling?" The piece of broken glass was pressed against his heart, only separated by a thin piece of clothing. It glided precariously on his skin. Cold sweat covered Chen Shijie's forehead, and his body trembled uncontrollably. No more, please spare me. Please spare me. I was wrong. I really learned from my mistake. I was blind and failed to see your greatness. He thought he had stumbled upon a premium good this time, but who knew that the one he offended was a she-devil? Chen Shijie's stomach was almost green from regret. He begged for mercy while his eyes turned to the blondie and all his lackeys to ask for help, but they hid further and further away, wishing they could disappear. Learned from your mistake. The girl raised her brows. Chen Shijie quickly replied, Yes. I did. I learned my mistake 1,000 times over. Learned it 10,000 times over. Since this is the case, then forget it, the girl said in a benevolent tone. Chen Shijie heaved a huge sigh of relief when he heard that. However, the moment she said that, Chen Shijie let out an even more frightful cry. The broken piece of glass was instantly stabbed into the man's chest right under everyone's stunned gazes. Sorry about that. Got carried away. It slipped out of my hand. The girl, who appeared sweet and weak, pulled out a bunch of tissues from the side and slowly wiped the blood that splattered onto her hands without a hint of warmth in her lazy eyes. Chen Shijie laid on the floor and exhaled more air than he was inhaling. Only Song Jing and Luing noticed the precision with which the glass penetrated Chen Shijie's chest. It narrowly avoided vital blood vessels. If he had been stabbed off to the side slightly, Chen Shijie would have died. There were shrieks all around the bar. The blondie, who had been full of arrogance just now, laid among the bodyguards on the floor. The crowd retreated further away, cowering like they were looking at some freak. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly, afraid they would attract the girl's attention. The screams caused one to be frustrated and annoyed. Yi Wanwan slowly reached over and rubbed her temples, which were on the verge of exploding. The steam she let off just now merely reduced her fury temporarily, but in just a moment, that fiery rage in her chest, accompanied by the stench of blood on the floor, would ignite once again. That pain almost made her dizzy, and everything around her started to spin slowly. In the next second, Yi Wanwan held her forehead unsteady. Her eyes scanned her surroundings. Then her eyes became fixated in a certain direction. Song Jing was initially still in shock, but now he was suddenly faced with a cold and threatening glare. His body stiffened instantly, and his brain stopped working as he gulped. His legs started trembling. Damn. WWE. Is she looking at me? Chapter 513. One-sided abuse. The flames in her body exploded, releasing herself from her shackles and destroying the last hint of consciousness she had. Yi Wanwan stood in a daze at the same spot. Her expression was completely blank. The image dormant in the depths of her mind came over her like a surging tide in the storm, drowning her. Crimson red blood flooded her entire world. The sounds of killing rang in her ears. The murderous aura was so strong that it could make her soul shiver. It was like a big net that was becoming smaller and tighter, closing in on her and slowly forcing her to her limits until she couldn't retreat any further. Kill them. If the Yi Wanwan who beat those people up just now was a female devil, This Yuanwan, who had a blank expression and wasn't moving at all, standing at the same spot silently, was like a god of murder descending to earth. She simply stood there, not doing anything in a daze, but her pair of eyes inexplicably made Song Jing's hairs stand on their ends. Just as Song Jing's heart was thumping hard from the stare, he heard Lu Ying's petrifying shout. Song Jing, run! What? Song Jing didn't understand. However, too late, it was too late. The girl was like a sharp blade from hell, charging towards him madly with many devils that were wailing with anguish. Unlike the bored teasing she directed towards those men before, she now had a frantic, murderous intent, wishing to put a man to his death. It was as if she was drained of a soul, and became a violent humanoid weapon that only knew how to kill. Song Jing was scared out of his wits by the overwhelming sense of destruction. He was in a daze for only a split second when his chest received a solid punch. Song Jing's body was immediately flung against the big, cold and hard marble wall with a resounding bang. Then he fell to the ground with his body stuck to the wall. He went limp like a doll. Puke. Song Jing's head tilted to the side, and he vomited a large pool of fresh blood. His sternum was broken. She actually broke it in one move. Song Jing's face was completely pale. He looked ahead anxiously and all he saw was Yi Wanwan already in a dogfight with Lu Ying. PFFF Song Jing witnessed with his own eyes how Lu Ying was stepped on and puked blood out, but before he could return to his senses, the girl followed with another attack. She used her palm and slapped Lu Ying's right shoulder. Lu Ying took over 10 steps backward. His body slammed onto the table behind him hard, and the glasses came crashing all over the floor. Before Lu Ying could react, the girl was like a demon demanding his life. She trampled on Lu Ying's chest again. Song Jing held his chest in agony. He knew very well how brutally Yi Wanwan fought, and Lu Ying already got hit once. If he got another kick, he would be dead for sure. Captain Song Jing's eyes widened in horror and he rushed over, suppressing the pain. Yi Wanwan's eyes were locked in Lu Ying's direction. However, she didn't even glance at him and sent Song Jing flying with just a kick. Song Jing laid on the floor and felt like he was about to die. Darn it, cough cough. Lu Ying coughed furiously and stared at the girl towering above him, and slowly made her way towards him. His face turned extremely ugly. What exactly is going on here? This girl actually. Chapter 5:14. Lost control completely. Although they both didn't know what was going on, they were certain that if they gave up at this moment, considering Yi Wanwan's terrifying fighting skills, they would be dead in a second. But if they fought, they might be able to delay their deaths. At the bar, some fled and hid while the others stood at the same spot, frightened and stunned as they watched this girl overturn the place all by herself. Those two men were almost covered in blood, especially the one who looked more formidable. At this moment, there was suddenly a pair of footsteps coming from the door. When 11 and Sui rushed over with backup, all they saw was chaos in the bar and a floor covered with bodyguards. Song Jing laid on the floor at his last breath while Lu Ying's bloody body had been sent flying by a kick from a delicate and weak figure. He remained on the ground unmoving. Who's that? He actually injured Song Jing and Lu Ying to this state? That figure was very swift and had a murderous and tyrannical look. She wanted to continue attacking Lu Ying, who had lost all energy to resist. Lu Ying! When 11 saw this, his expression changed and he didn't have time to think. He sped over and stopped that person's finishing move instantly. The other guards behind 11 saw the state Lu Ying and Song Jing were in and were alarmed. They quickly charged forward as well. Who are you? 11's arm was going numb as he glared at that weak figure. Alas, in the next second, after he saw that girl's face clearly, he was completely shaken. Miss Wanwan, how could it? Before 11 could react, he felt a pang of pain across his forehead and could only hurry to deal with the torrential attacks from the girl. At the same time, Sui also saw who that woman was. Miss Wanwan? What's going on here? How could it be Miss Wanwan? Miss Wanwan. Sui yelled anxiously, but it seemed like she couldn't hear him at all. On the contrary, her blood-sucking breath became thicker. The guards 11 brought along saw that the other party was actually Yi Wanwan, and they were totally stunned. Many of them didn't dare to attack, afraid they would hurt her. But very soon, they realized they were completely naive. 11 fell to the ground next to Su Yi's feet with a loud bang, and gold stars appeared in front of his eyes. 11. Are you alright? Su Yi quickly helped him up. 11 clutched his ribs. Damn. What's the situation here? Song Jing, who was a couple of steps away, replied weakly. Not sure. Miss Wanwan became this way all of a sudden at first. She was beating up Chen Shijia and his lackeys. Suddenly, she started attacking me and Luing as well. Just as the three people were speaking, the guards 11 brought along couldn't hold on for any longer. 11 and Su Yi saw that so many guards were unable to hold her down, and that the deadly figure was now walking in their direction. Swish, Yi Wanwan continued to attack 11. It was as if the more skilled the person was, the more stirred up she would be to kill. Luing couldn't put up a fight anymore, so Yi Wanwan's drive to murder was directed towards 11 instantly. Chapter 5:15. Not allowed to fight, he just couldn't believe that this sweet girl could actually transform into a god of murder so suddenly and become so scary. It wasn't like how she was on the trip to Country B. That was a complete act. Everyone looked dazed, unable to comprehend that this person was the sweet and whiny girl who lived with them. Before Yi Wanwan made her final fatal blow, Su Yi stepped forward and shielded 11. Miss Wanwan. Don't. Yi Wanwan paused. She stared at Su Yi with a blank gaze and hesitated in midair for a brief moment. Su Yi heaved a sigh of relief. Wan. However, before he could complete his sentence, he was sent flying with a kick. Su Yi landed on the floor near Luing. Su Yi. Damn it. Seeing her cold gaze directed straight at him, getting closer and closer to him with each step, 11 froze like he had just been submerged in an ice bath. Swish, the girl didn't need any weapons. Her forelimbs and body were her sharpest weapons. A razor-like attack came from her hands, and 11 gritted his teeth. He could only force himself to stand up and fight, blocking a terrifying attack from her. The two of them started fighting once again. Strictly speaking, Yi Wanwan was attacking 11 while 11 was only defending himself. The adrenaline rush he got from his near-death experience didn't last long. 11 slowly made more and more mistakes during combat. He couldn't hold on for much longer. Also, the girl's murderous intent became stronger. She struck a fatal blow to his chest. 11 stood on the ground unsteadily and closed his eyes in despair. Miss Wanwan. Not far off, Su Yi shouted uncontrollably in a panic. 11. Song Jing and Lu Ying's faces changed. At this very moment, a sudden burst of sound came and a huge pressure collided with the girl's body. Time seemed to stop at that moment. The bone-breaking pain 11 was anticipating didn't happen. He opened his eyes in a cold sweat, and he saw a tall and slender figure who appeared out of nowhere. He was standing there with his back to the light with his palm locked firmly around the girl's wrist, blocking that fatal blow. Si Yi Han's entire body looked as if it brought along the wind and snow from a piercingly cold place. His dark gaze swept across all the guards on the floor then stopped on the girl in front of him. His face was extremely rigid. 99th Master. Su Yi and the others looked in Si Yi Han's direction. Yi Wanwan seemed sluggish as she looked at her own wrist that was being gripped forcefully. Tracing the cool palm upwards, her eyes reached the face of the man before her. In her vacant, black pupils, there was a reflection of the man's silhouette. The girl seemed to despise this feeling of being imprisoned as her brows suddenly furrowed dangerously. Su Yi and the others had their hearts in their throats when they saw this. 9th Master. Be careful. Miss Wanwan isn't herself. Si Yi Han glared at the hostile girl. It was like there was a storm brewing in his eyes, and he was using every ounce of strength to suppress the explosive anger in his chest. Under the girl's increasingly menacing gaze, he put a sudden force on her wrist and in the next second, he pressed her warm body into his embrace and spat out ice-cold words. Didn't I tell you before that you're not allowed to fight? Chapter 5:16. I'm not the one who changed 9th Master. It's dangerous. Yi Wanwan stared at the man's face, which looked even more stunning when he was in a rage like he'd gone to hell and back. The violence and murderous intent in her eyes slowly subsided like the tide. Agio. The girl's bone-chilling and threatening aura dissipated instantly like she knew she was finally safe. Her body left combat mode and relaxed instantly from being severely overworked. Even though Si Yihan's expression was still extremely icy, the way he carried her by her waist was very gentle. Sui, send that girl back and block off all news from tonight's incident. Si Yihan ordered, then picked up Yi Wanwan and strode away. Seeing Yi Wanwan being carried away by his master, like she was a harmless little kitten, everyone was stunned for a long time before letting out a huge sigh of relief. They looked like they had just been given a second chance in life. 11 had been so nervous that everything that happened was a blur. He was still in a daze. I was saved? That was just terrifying. He had never felt such an overwhelming sense of murder and evil, even from world-class mercenaries and disciples from influential ancient martial artists. But from his master's expression, although he was mad, he didn't look surprised. Master already knew about Miss Wanwan's true capabilities. From when Yi Wanwan was disguised as Black Widow, he already knew she wasn't a simpleton. At the family meeting, she was able to block the guard from punishing Sui with her bare hands. This also led him to believe she had some skills. But tonight, her true abilities were revealed. When Sui, who was confused by his fall, heard Si Yihan's orders, he hurriedly got up and responded, yes. Although the kick that sent him flying seemed rough, he only felt some pain around his chest. He was much better off compared to Lu Ying and 11's injuries. Sui stared in a daze at the retreating figures of his master carrying the girl, and he inexplicitly recalled what Si Yihan told Lu Ying before. Master said, he likes girls that are unparalleled. When Sui returned to his senses, he quickly arranged for someone to take Jiang Yan, ran home, then blocked off all information about tonight's incident. As for Chun Shijia, after tonight, I'm afraid the Chun family will be expelled from Imperial City. 99th Master? The blondie curled up in the corner had been in shock, and right now, he was also dumbfounded, his face filled with disbelief. How could that be? She's actually Si Yihan's woman? No wonder she was so scary. It's over, we're doomed. Sui didn't bother with those people. He casually walked past them and strolled up to Lu Ying, who was on the verge of dying. The news he received was that Miss Wanwan got into trouble with Chun Shijia and his gang at the bar. Lu Ying and Song Jing accompanied Miss Wanwan to the bar, so how did such a major incident happen? He knew Lu Ying too well, and it wasn't difficult for him to guess what unfolded at the bar. Sui remained at the same spot and looked down at the man lying on the floor. Lu Ying, do you remember the oath we made together that time? Lu Ying slowly raised his head and looked somewhat stunned. Sui looked at him calmly and spoke very carefully, enunciating each word. Lu Ying, I'm not the one who changed. You are. He also wasn't the one who had forgotten who he was and who he was loyal to. Since they were once friends, he ended his speech there. After Sui said that, he abruptly left. Chapter 517. Is she very scary? Si Yihan stared at the girl tucked in bed. The gentleness in his eyes was tossed about by the wind and rain. The scene at the bar kept replaying in his mind. The girl was forced to her limit and fought, not knowing she was exhausted. That numb, cold little face. She became so calm the moment she saw him. It was as if a sharp claw was gripping the softest part of his heart. Si Yihan felt a suffocating pain. At the same time, in another villa in Imperial City, Si Xia sat in front of the computer screen in a daze. One set of images after another appeared on the screen. Gun and fresh flowers. Strawberry cake and almond cake. Smoke from chimneys spiraling upwards and a galaxy of stars. The images repeated themselves over and over again on the screen. Suddenly, a special reminder rang out. The teenager absent-mindedly opened his email and read the news as usual without high expectations. There was a short clip attached in the email. The video was quite shaky. Through the dim lighting and messy crowd, the girl moved so swiftly that only a vague figure of her could be seen. Her moves were accurate and each attack was meant to kill. Finally, she sent Lu Ying flying with a kick to his chest. The second he opened the clip, Si Xia stood up instantly and his expression changed. His light gray eyes lit up as he murmured in disbelief, Jie Jie Wan. A few days later, in the morning, the rays of sun seeped through the gaps in the leaves and sprinkled a golden brilliance in the room. The gentle breeze ruffled the tree leaves lightly, leading to some rustling. A girl quietly laid on the soft and snow-white bedding. Her clean little face was innocent and flawless without a single speck of dust on it, and she was as gentle as a delicate flower stalk in a greenhouse, unable to withstand any wind or rain. Yi Wanwan was awoken by the pain in her head. Her hangover made her feel like there was an axe wedged between her head, chopping it in half. The pain was excruciating. Damn it. What happened? Why am I back in Jing Garden? I remember that last night. I went to the bar to look for Jiang Yanran, and after that, I seemed to have bumped into a group of troublemakers. It felt like those people forced quite a bit of liquor down my throat. Then I can't really remember what happened after that. Right, where's Si Yihan? Yi Wanwan realized there was nobody by her side, so she climbed out of bed while rubbing her painful temples. The moment she sat up and prepared to get up, she nearly fell head first on the ground. Fuck. What's going on? Her entire body felt as if it had been running the entire night around Imperial City. Her muscles were aching so badly and her legs didn't even feel like they belonged to her. Simply lifting her knee caused her to grit her teeth in agony. Damn it. What did I do last night? How did I get beaten up so badly? Yi Wanwan was full of suspicions. She needed to use the edge of the bed to support herself and inch her way out of the room. With great difficulty, Yi Wanwan finally reached the door and slowly stretched to push the door open. When she pushed the door open, there happened to be two guards conversing right outside the door. Thus, Yi Wanwan quickly asked the two of them for Si Yihan's whereabouts. May I ask, where's? She merely opened her mouth when the two guards jolted upon seeing her, as if they were looking at a monster. Their expressions of horror were extreme, and even the hairs on their heads were about to stand upright. After loudly wailing, "Ow!" the two of them ran away and disappeared. Where's your master? Yi Wanwan didn't have a chance to complete her sentence. She froze with her arm in midair, and the corners of her mouth twitched. What's the meaning of this? Am I that scary? Chapter 518. Who took the chance to hit me while I wasn't paying attention? Yi Wanwan shouted in their direction, annoyed. The entire hallway was empty and nobody replied to her at all. The two guards already disappeared. If she wasn't mistaken, those two people hadn't even taken the stairs. They simply jumped out the window into the yard. Was that really necessary? What's going on here? Yi Wanwan stood in a daze for a long time. She had no other options and could only wait until her body recovered slightly before going downstairs. Currently, the living room was dead silent. Si Yihan sat on the sofa with a frosty expression. Su Yi was next to him with a grave face. 11 and his men stood solemnly in two straight rows, and in the middle were Lu Ying and Song Jing. Song Jing lowered his head and said, ashamed and regretful, I didn't handle the situation well, and wasn't able to protect Miss Yi. I'm willing to accept any punishment. Lu Ying said with a heavy expression. This has nothing to do with Song Jing. I stopped him from taking action. On the sofa, Si Yihan's cold eyes swept across everyone. He remained silent. The appalling silence stagnated the air in the room, causing one to almost choke. At this moment, a pair of light footsteps came from behind. The footsteps came down the stairs. Ta-ta-ta. Yi Wanwan finally managed to climb down the staircase, then she stretched her back and stood a few steps away from everyone, panting and speaking weakly. May I interrupt? Swish, in a split second, Su Yi, 11, Song Jing and all the guards in the living room retreated swiftly, leaving a large empty space with only Yi Wanwan standing there by herself. Every pair of eyes was filled with fear as they stared at her, and kept their guards up. Everyone looked as if there was a great enemy approaching. Not again? Yi Wanwan's face turned black instantly. What's wrong with these people? Why are all of them giving me this look? Song Jing was aware his hatred for her was second only to his hatred for Lu Ying, and he struggled to swallow his spit. His calves started trembling again, and his chest injury seemed to hurt even more as well. Lu Ying's face turned white at the same time. Yi Wanwan glanced strangely at everybody who had retreated far away from her. Song Jing was badly battered. His arm was in a sling around his neck, and he looked like a mistreated mistress by the way he looked at her. Half of 11's face was swollen and he was wearing a foot splint. Su Yi's forehead was bandaged, and Lu Ying was the worst. He looked like a mummy with his entire body wrapped in bandages. Almost everyone had injuries. Yi Wanwan knitted her brows. What happened to all of you? She then muttered. Did you guys get hurt while trying to save me from that lecher? Everyone's expression. Seeing the weird looks they gave her, that didn't seem to be the case, but nobody told her what happened exactly. Yi Wanwan grew even more suspicious as she muttered and walked towards Si Han. Yi Wanwan rubbed her arm pitifully and complained. Audiobook, why am I aching everywhere? Did they take the chance to hit me last night while I wasn't paying attention? 11 Sui Songjing, Lu Ying and all the guards were speechless. Madam, are you kidding me right now? We hit you? This is ridiculous. We've never been more offended in our lives. Chapter 519. How could she be an ordinary person? Yi Wanwan noticed Si Han didn't look too good, so she acted pitiful on purpose. Now that her acting had some effectiveness, she was quick-witted and moved slowly towards him. Everywhere. It hurts everywhere. My muscles are aching and painful. My bones feel like they were fractured by someone then screwed back. And here. I'm injured here too. Yi Wanwan lifted a finger. There was some broken skin around her nail. It was truly a huge wound. Those who had been beaten until their flesh was punctured, nose bled and face swelled felt misery in their hearts. Sui, go get the first aid kit, Si Han said. Sui quickly got up and brought the first aid kit over. Si Han held Yi Wanwan's finger, disinfected it and wrapped it up. Yi Wanwan then had another request. I don't want this, I don't want this. I want a pretty ribbon. Si Han gave her side-eye, but he complied and his long and slim fingers weaved through the gauze. Shortly after, he tied a very beautiful ribbon. All the single dogs in the house were injured both mentally and physically. Si Han stared at Yi Wanwan's bruised joint, and his face darkened. Yi Wanwan suddenly recalled the rule, which banned her from getting injured. She didn't dare to go too far anymore and she hurriedly said, I probably fell when I was tipsy. It's nothing, it's nothing. Just blow it for me and it won't hurt anymore. Si Han checked her elbow joints gently and said sternly, You haven't exercised for a long time. From today onwards, I'll get someone to teach you some basic skills, and you have to train every single day. Si Han turned to 11. 11. When 11 heard Si Han calling him, he quickly limped over. Yes, Si Han. Starting from today, you'll be her trainer. What? 11 was taken aback. He was so shocked that he stared at his master, and almost thought he was hearing things. Si Han's eyes turned cold. You have a problem? Of course I have a problem. It's a big problem, okay? How could I possibly train Miss Wanwan? It's basically asking me to be a human punching bag, alright? No problem. 11 plucked up the courage to reply. Actually, duties like this shouldn't be performed by me. Master should have gotten Lu Ying to do it, but Master actually asked me instead. Seems like Lu Ying's mistake this time was too serious. No matter how unhappy he was with Yi Wanwan, he shouldn't have blatantly gone against Master's orders. In dealing with this matter, he definitely brought in his personal emotions. Actually, Yi Wanwan hated exercising, but seeing that Si Han already arranged things for her, and considering last night's incident, she felt she really needed the training. At least she'd be able to protect herself if something like this happened again in the future. Hence, Yi Wanwan said, Then all right. 11, I'll have to trouble you to take care of me in the future. Please teach me some self-defense strategies. 11's smile was uglier than a sob. Sure. Isn't he the one who needs to be taught some self-defense tactics? All the other guards in the house looked at the chick who had returned to her delicate and pretty self, and were utterly confused. Judging by Yi Wanwan's reaction, it seemed like she forgot everything after she became sober. Whenever she's drunk, she gets possessed by the god of murder, and has off-the-chart combat skills. What kind of magical function is this? They were certainly too naive. How could Master like just any ordinary girl? Chapter 520. Removal of Power. As for Yi Wanwan, she didn't remember anything from when she was drunk and really thought her body was aching due to a fall. Of course, she felt like many things were amiss, but because Sui and the others told her the same false story, she didn't have any reason to be suspicious. Oh dear. Where's Yanran? How's Yanran? Yi Wanwan suddenly remembered. Sui arranged for someone to take her home already, Si Han replied. Was she hurt? No. That's good, that's good. Yi Wanwan heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Wanwan spoke while she turned to Lu Ying and Song Jing without any expression on her face. Last night, they simply stood by while she was in danger, but this was nothing compared to what she went through in her previous life. Yi Wanwan retracted her gaze. I won't disturb you guys any further then. Please continue. She didn't really care how Si Han was going to deal with the two of them. All she cared about now was working on increasing her abilities. She didn't want something like last night to happen again. Ever since her rebirth, she had been frantically trying to change herself and acquire more knowledge, but she hadn't thought of strengthening her skills. Trainer 11, I'll see you soon. Yi Wanwan gave 11 a brief salute. Cough cough. Sure. 11 replied perfunctorily. After Yi Wanwan left, the living room returned to its initial dead silence. Lu Ying stood there and looked down without saying a single word. There still needed to be punishment for Song Jing and Lu Ying. In 1 second, everyone's eyes were on Si Han, waiting for his verdict. Although Miss Yi didn't need to be protected, Lu Ying and Song Jing's responsibilities couldn't be pushed away, especially for Lu Ying. Everyone knew about Lu Ying's bias against Yi Wanwan, but he really went too far this time. After some time, the man's chilly voice finally resounded in the living room. From today onwards, Lu Ying will be dismissed of all his duties as captain and 11 will take over. Lu Ying raised his head immediately after Si Han spoke like he couldn't believe it at all. The others looked at each other in confusion yet didn't dare to breathe loudly. He was actually directly stripped off his power. A punishment like this was more serious than being whipped a few hundred times. The one who was in even more shock was 11. With regards to the heavy responsibility entrusted to him by Si Han, he was flattered, but he was merely the leader of Dark Team 1. How could he manage the position of head captain? Sui and Lu Ying were the master's left and right-hand men. One for internal affairs and the other for external. Needless to say, the importance of these two people was extraordinary. The most crucial thing was that there was an annual assessment for the position of head captain, and one of the most important aspects was the test of fighting skills. Anyone could challenge the captain, and Lu Ying already won 3 times consecutively. Although he was quite skilled, he was always defeated by Lu Ying. Everyone would probably be unhappy with this arrangement. After all, not everyone could compare to Miss Ye's metamorphosis. Song Jing didn't expect Lu Ying's punishment would be so severe, and he panicked instantly. Ninth Master. Isn't this punishment a little too severe? It was one mistake. Please reconsider. Song Jing, stop it. Lu Ying stopped Song Jing. Then he removed a flaming red ring from his finger, slowly walked towards 11, and passed the ring over to him. Faced with Lu Ying's cold expression, 11 stared at that ring akin to a piping hot potato and smiled bitterly in his heart. The head captain assessment this year was coming up. If he replaced Lu Ying's position now, he would have to accept challenges from the team, and Lu Ying would also be eligible to challenge him. If he lost to Lu Ying again. Chapter 521. How could he win after Si Han left? The atmosphere in the living room was stagnant. 11 held the ring in his hand and coughed lightly. He was about to speak when Lu Ying spoke first with a rigid expression. Don't get too excited. I'll be taking this ring back very soon. After Lu Ying said his piece, he turned and left immediately. Song Ling glanced at 11 then quickly tried to catch up with Lu Ying. 11 could only retract what he wanted to say and stood awkwardly in place. The guards close to 11 said unhappily, "This guy's too arrogant, huh? What's he trying to say? He was in the wrong and was stripped of his post. It wasn't like our leader stole his position, right?" 11 sighed helplessly. "Forget it. It's true that I'm not skilled enough." Even though his skills weren't too bad, he had never beaten Lu Ying before. This post of head captain was only handed to him due to Lu Ying's wrongdoing. The upcoming head captain assessment was a couple months away. How could he beat Lu Ying in such a short period of time? He probably wouldn't remain in this post for long. After Yi Wanwan was forced to gulp down 2 big bowls of soup to sober up, she was finally allowed to leave the house. She asked Jiang Yanran and Chu Feng to come out. Before she left, she brought along Han Xianyu's autographed album. She was too busy before and hadn't had the time to give it to Jiang Yanran. Previously, she told Han Xianyu that a friend of hers was his fan and Han Xianyu gave her 10 signed albums. In case Chu Feng really did something that let Jiang Yanran down. Maybe her idol could cheer her up a bit. However, she still felt there must have been some misunderstanding. In a nearby restaurant at University City, Yuanwan and the anxious Jiang Yanran sat opposite one another. Yanran, did anything happen when you were at the bar last night? Yuanwan asked out of concern. Jiang Yanran shook her head. I had too much to drink and only recalled that you came over and convinced me to go home. What happened anyway? Were you the one who took me home last night? Jiang Yanran was drunk at that time and didn't know what happened after that either. Yuanwan was relieved. To prevent her from worrying, she didn't mention the incident with those guys. Nothing much. I was the one who took you home. Yuanwan frowned and looked at the time on her phone. Why isn't Chu Feng here yet? It couldn't be that he's really guilty and didn't dare to come, right? Compared to last night, Jiang Yanran was much calmer and seemingly mentally prepared for the worst-case scenario. The two of them waited for about half an hour before Chu Feng finally arrived. The teenager wore a white tracksuit and ran over panting, a thin layer of sweat on his forehead. Yanran, I'm so sorry. Sorry I'm late. Chu Feng said apologetically while trying to catch his breath. Where did you go? Why did you take so long to get here? Yuanwan probed with an investigative look. Chu Feng seemed to be avoiding something. Nothing, there was a traffic jam. Yuanwan's gaze became serious. You're telling me there's a jam at this hour? Jiang Yanran sat there in silence, not saying a word. Why yes, because an accident happened in front. Chu Feng stammered. Seeing how the teenager was obviously lying, Yuanwan couldn't be bothered to waste any more time with him, and directly showed him the photo Jiang Yanran sent to her. You were with this girl again, huh? Chapter 522. You're single now. Do you have anything you'd like to explain now? I thought you were going to be true to Jiang Yanran, so I kept trying to get the two of you together. It's been such a short period of time, yet you're two-timing already? Yuanwan glared at him coldly. Chu Feng was stunned. No, it's not like that. How could I possibly be a two-timer? Yuanwan's expression remained unchanged. It's not like that? Then what's it like? Yanran saw you shopping with this woman with her own eyes. She even called you and you lied and said you were at home. It was obvious Chu Feng hadn't realized he was seen by Jiang Yanran. This happened 3 days ago, yet Jiang Yanran hadn't brought it up to him after she found out. When Chu Feng considered what Jiang Yanran thought of him, he was so anxious that he nearly cried. He turned to Jiang Yanran in a panic. Yanran, things aren't what you think. I don't have that kind of relationship with this woman. Looking at the way Chu Feng was sweating profusely and panicking, Jiang Yanran seemed to be a little moved, but once she saw the photo from the corner of her eye, she couldn't bring herself to believe him. The veins on Yuanwan's forehead protruded. Stop with your crap. Why don't you tell us who this woman is? Since it's a misunderstanding, why don't you just explain yourself? This, Chu Feng mumbled and looked like he was in a difficult position. I can't tell you. If you're not guilty, why can't you tell us? Yuanwan really wanted to pry open this guy's head and see what was inside. His girlfriend's already on the verge of breaking up with him, yet he still wants to hide the truth? Chu Feng pursed his lips stubbornly. I really can't say it. Yuanwan nodded and pulled on Jiang Yanran. Sure, keep it to yourself then. Congratulations, you're now single. Hey Wanwanchi, don't. Chu Feng pleaded and blocked their path. I'll tell you, alright? That woman is Han Xianyu's assistant. Chu Feng quickly blurted out. Yuanwan paused. Han Xianyu's assistant? Jiang Yanran froze as well. After a moment of silence, Yuanwan finally returned to her senses and pinched her brows like she finally realized something. No wonder she thought that girl looked very familiar. Now that Chu Feng mentioned it, she finally recalled that the girl was none other than Han Xianyu's assistant, Xiao Liang. She had seen her around the apartment building a few times. So, why would you be with Han Xianyu's assistant? Yuanwan asked, still confused. It can't be what I think, right? Chu Feng's charming and handsome face was like a beaten-up eggplant. I also recently found out that a senior I know is actually Han Xianyu's assistant. I knew Yan Ran always wanted Han Xianyu's limited edition autographed album, so I went to that senior for help. She agreed to help me, but on the condition that I'd be her slave for a week, so I could only suck it up and be at her beck and call for the week. We'll be starting school really soon, and I wanted to give the album to Yan Ran as a beginning of school gift to surprise her. I really didn't cheat on her. I'm Yan Ran's man while I'm alive, and I'll be her ghost when I'm dead. How could I fall for another woman? Chu Feng came clean and told them every single thing. Chapter 523. Don't do it again. As for Yi Wanwan, her face was darker than the bottom of a pot, and she was so frustrated. What the hell? Why would you do all this just for Han Xianyu's autographed album? Chu Feng immediately replied with conviction. It's a 3rd anniversary limited edition autographed album. There are only 1,000 copies in the whole world. You can't get it on the market. You can't buy it even if you're rich. Jiang Yanran chimed in. This is definitely quite hard to get. I just mentioned it in passing one time. I didn't think he would really go to this extent. Yi Wanwan choked so badly she couldn't get any words out. Darn it. So should I mention that I have a stockpile of those on my hands? This guy's method of abusing dogs. One leaves me speechless. I thought it was some earth-shattering sorrow that he couldn't tell anyone. The teenager hung his head low. His hair was drenched from sweat and he stood there like a deserted puppy mumbling. Yan Ran, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have allowed you to misunderstand and hurt your feelings. Yi Wanwan asked. So did you get the album? Chu Feng hung his head even lower. At first, I was only 1 day away from getting it. But since I had to rush over here just now, she got a little mad and added 3 more days. Yi Wanwan sighed deeply. Don't tell me you're planning to continue being a slave? Jiang Yanran stood aside, not knowing what to say, and sighed helplessly. Don't go, I just mentioned it in passing. This person, why's he so silly? But he made her feel a warmth in her heart she'd never felt before. Due to her experience with Song Zihang, she was initially very insecure in this relationship with Chu Feng. However, this man kept easing the insecurities in her heart over and over. Chu Feng was very serious. But you like it, as long as you like it, I really want you to have it. Yi Wanwan had a headache and held her forehead in her hand. Alright, stop being all lovey-dovey right in front of me. Don't do anything for Xiao Liang anymore. I'd rather you be a slave for me than her. After Yi Wanwan said that, she took out the album she brought from home. Is this the 3rd anniversary limited edition autographed album you were talking about? After Chu Feng saw the golden album, his eyes lit up as bright as a light bulb. Yes. That's the one. Wanwanji, how did you get it? Don't mention me being a slave. I don't mind doing anything illegal for you. The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. No thanks. You can have it as long as you don't do anything silly anymore. She then passed the album to Jiang Yanran. Jiang Yanran opened it and realized it was actually autographed with her name on it. She was elated. Wanwan, how did you get it? Yi Wanwan explained without much thought. Didn't I mention before that I'm working at Dazzling? Anyway, I got it through some connections in the industry. It suddenly dawned on Chu Feng. Oh right. I heard you started working part-time at Dazzling when summer holidays started. Wanwanch, what do you do there? Are you also an assistant? Which artist are you assigned to? Is it a big superstar? Did you get to meet Han Xianyu? Chu Feng asked a string of questions with excitement. Jiang Yanran muttered to herself. There's only a handful of superstars at Dazzling, right? But I remember Gong Su's from Dazzling, and as for Han Xianyu, he's an artist from the head office worldwide, so I don't think it's that easy for her to meet him. 1. Not literally abusing dogs. This refers to the way he displays his affection publicly. Chapter 524. Luckily your sister Jiang Yanran seemed to recall something, then she turned to Yi Wanwan. Oh right, Wan, you said you'll be signing me in the future. You haven't forgotten about that, right? Yi Wan giggled. Of course I haven't. Yen Ran, you don't have to rush to debut now. Just focus on learning the basics. By the time you graduate, I should have a footing in the entertainment industry, and you can work with me then. Yi Wan paused, then turned to look at the girl next to her and continued. I'm signing you not so you can suffer along with me. After Jiang Yen Ran heard Yi Wan say that, her cheeks flushed furiously, and she nodded resolutely. And I'll also work hard and do my best. Chu Feng looked at his own girlfriend, then turned to Yi Wan and mumbled, Wanjia. What is it? Yi Wan looked at Chu Feng. Chu Feng bit his lips. Could you teach me? Teach you what? Yi Wan didn't understand. Teach me how to flirt with girls. Chu Feng said resentfully. Yi Wan was speechless. Are you sure you want to ask a sister a question like that? Chu Feng gave her side eye, then muttered softly. Luckily you're a sister. Otherwise I would never dare to allow Yen Ran to play with you, alright? Yi Wan broke into a teasing smile. Of course. If I wasn't a sis, do you think you'd be able to achieve anything at all? Chu Feng was unable to refute that. If Wanjia was a guy, this rival would be too terrifying, huh? All in all, it was just a misunderstanding. Jiang Yen Ran and Chu Feng's matter was finally settled. This guy, Chu Feng, even asked me how to flirt with girls, but the person who knows how to flirt best is this guy himself. Because no matter how skilled one was at flirting, it could never beat a sincere heart. Since the misunderstanding was cleared up, Yi Wan didn't want to be a light bulb any longer. She told them she had something to attend to and left first. The moment she left the restaurant, her WeChat on her work phone started buzzing like crazy. Gongsu, Yiji, why aren't you at the office yet? Gongsu, Yiji, I have a shoot for a magazine cover today. Aren't you coming along with me? Gongsu, Yiji, are you free tonight? I'll treat you to dinner. Gongsu, Yiji, why aren't you responding? Gongsu, it feels like I've been banished to the cold palace. Don't ignore me. Yi Wan was speechless as she read the bombardment of WeChat messages. This was indeed Gongsu's style. She sensed it previously when she read the messages he sent to Han Xianyu. It was a sharp contrast to Luo Chen, who only sent her one message at a time and was straight to the point. He reported his schedule for the day and only bothered her with things he needed help with. Yi Wan replied to Luo Chen first before responding to Gongsu. Is anything the matter? You don't have very important events lately. You'll be fine with just the assistant accompanying you. Yi Wan just sent the reply, then Gongsu responded within seconds. First, he sent a big chunk of exclamation marks, followed by this. You actually replied to Luo Chen before me. Yi Wan stared at the screen filled with exclamation marks, completely dumbfounded. You're with Luo Chen now. Gongsu. I bumped into him in the lobby. Don't you avoid my question. Yi Wan. Does it make a difference who I reply to first? Gongsu, of course there is. You must reply to me first next time. Yi Wan. I had a chat with my younger sister today. She said she likes men who are mature and earnest. Gongsu. Luo Chen is my senior. I think you should definitely reply to him first. Yi Wan. Chapter 525. I'll get it back for sure. Thump thump sounds of rock-solid punches went on nonstop. Lu Ying's bandaged hands were pounding on the punching bag like crazy. Song Jing quickly pulled him away. Captain, stop. Are you insane? Stop it. You're injured. Lu Ying breathed heavily with a storm in his eyes, and he paused only for a split second before attacking the punching bag once again. Captain, don't be like that. Captain. Song Jing coaxed him for a long time to no avail. All he saw was Lu Ying's wounds tearing open again. At this moment, Song Jing caught a familiar figure walking towards them from the corners of his eyes. Miss Ruoshi. It was as if Song Jing's shining star had arrived, and he quickly pleaded for help. Miss Ruoshi, please try talking to Captain. Seeing that the person who came in was Ruoshi, Lu Ying froze. Miss Ruoshi, Qin Ruoshi walked over to the youth. I already heard what happened. She heard Yi Wan was attacked at the bar last night while Lu Ying, Song Jing and the others didn't protect her well. So they were punished by Si Yihan today. Lu Ying's face darkened even further. Sorry, Miss Ruashi. I let you down. Qin Ruashi sighed and said gently. Luing, Audiobook merely took away your position temporarily. The captain assessment will be in a couple months' time. And if you defeat 11, you'll regain your position as the captain. So, this so-called dismissal is just for a few months. You don't have to take it to heart. Luing remained silent. Ever since he started working for the master, he had never felt so attacked and insulted before so naturally. He found it hard to let it go. As for Miss Yi, Qin Ruashi's eyes shifted. It was quite surprising, didn't know she was so skilled. Even though Si Han prevented any information from being leaked, with Qin Ruashi's position and status, obviously it wasn't difficult to find out what really happened last night. When Luing heard that, he thought about how he was actually injured by Yi Wanwan, and his expression instantly turned uglier. He balled his fists up and said, that woman only has brute force and becomes stronger when she's drunk. In addition, none of us dared to attack her, so we were all injured by her. Qin Ruashi nodded and found his story matched what she imagined. Otherwise, there was no other explanation for how that woman could beat up Luing, 11, and so many others. Thus, Qin Ruashi continued to placate Luing. Anyway, don't think too much about it. Quickly pull yourself together. I believe the position of captain belongs to you alone, and you're the only one who can take on this role. Lu Ying's face finally warmed up slightly. Thank you, Miss Ruashi. I'll get it back for sure. That's the right attitude. Qin Ruashi smiled sweetly. I'll wait for your good news. Sure. At night in Jin Garden, when Wanwan returned, she saw Sui standing in the yard, appearing distracted. Yi Wanwan guessed it was probably due to the incident with Luing, so she strolled over. Have the punishments for Songjing and Luing been decided? Sui nodded and sighed. Songjing was punished with 100 whips and Luing. Sui paused for a moment then continued. Luing was removed from his post as the head captain, and 11 will take over for the time being. Yi Wanwan was taken aback. Luing was actually removed from his post. She never expected this outcome. Lu Ying's men were mostly warriors with a strong sense of integrity, and in their world, the strongest one had to be respected. Strength was of utmost importance. One had to be highly skilled in order to control them, so Luing was still highly respected by his men. Lu Ying's demotion probably upset quite a number of people, so this position 11 assumed would be quite challenging for him. Chapter 526. Date the second she entered the room, Yi Wanwan started ranting uncontrollably at Si Han. I'm back. I'm back after being stuffed with a stomach full of dog food. As expected, I'll have to pay the price sooner or later for coming up with this idea. That dumbass Chu Feng was actually trying to get a limited edition album for Yen Ran from Han Xianyu's assistant. Can you believe it? I was so worried for nothing. Yi Wanwan exclaimed when her gaze landed on something in Si Han's hands and she frowned. Why are you looking at those documents again? Si Han placed the stack of contracts down. Just browsing through. Yi Wanwan was speechless. Don't you have any hobbies other than working? She had been wanting to ask this question for a long time. Si Han thought about it seriously for a while then said, hobbies. Yi Wanwan nodded and gave many examples. That's right. Like singing, listening to music, swimming, soccer, or maybe golf. There must be something you like doing other than working, right? It's a rare chance for you to openly take a break and recuperate, so why can't you do something more relaxing? Si Han glanced at the girl with his bottomless eyes and replied, I don't have anything else to do. Yi Wanwan choked and was left speechless. Her little face turned darker. Why does this guy insist on killing the conversation? Yi Wanwan ran over angrily and grabbed his arm. Keep me company then. Let's go watch a movie. Haven't you noticed that we haven't been to the movies ever since we started dating? Not only the movies, they hadn't done most things dating couples normally did. Thinking back to her previous life, she really was quite pitiful. Although she was married to Si Han, their relationship was worse than that of enemies. There was no hope of doing all those couple activities. We already went out for a meal, even though a light bulb tagged along. Let's go to the movies this time. Just the two of us. Yi Wanwan suggested excitedly. Si Han looked at her eyes sparkling with eagerness. Yet he didn't say anything. Yuanwan knitted her brows slightly. What is it? You don't want to? I'm afraid you'll be bored, Si Han said plainly. Yuanwan was stunned. Afraid I'll be bored? Afraid I'll be bored. When I'm with him. Yuanwan blinked and mumbled to herself. So you actually do know you're boring. In the end, Yuanwan still managed to drag Si Han out the door. It was the weekend and also a peak period for going out. The cinema was jam-packed with people. Yuanwan looked around and finally found an empty seat, then pulled Si Han over. Sit here and wait for me. I'll go get the tickets. Even when Si Han was dressed like normal and casually on purpose, he still stuck out among the crowd just by sitting there. Yuanwan hurriedly lined up and got the tickets. She finally got the tickets and ran back to Si Han. What would you like to drink? I'll buy it. Do you want popcorn? Si Han. Anything. Yuanwan. All right. I'll pick. Si Han. In. Yuanwan then skipped over to the line again to get some drinks and popcorn, then went to another station to get snacks. Si Han turned to the people in the line and realized almost everyone was a guy, but Yuanwan was carrying a bunch of stuff and running here and there. Only then did a certain emotionless great devil finally realize that something didn't seem right. Chapter 527. So sweet. Yuanwan then ran off like the wind towards the most crowded area. The place selling cotton candy was indeed quite popular. There was a snaking queue. Yuanwan joined the queue and shortly after, she was sandwiched between a bunch of men and couples. Si Han's dark eyes were fixated on her, and after some time he slowly stood up. Yuanwan went up on her tiptoes to see how many people were in the queue when a shadow suddenly appeared next to her. She turned her head instinctively and realized Si Han had come over. What is it? When did you come over? Yuanwan asked in confusion. She assumed Si Han was looking for her for something. Si Han took the popcorn and Coke in her hands without any expression, then said, Go there and sit. Yuanwan still didn't understand what Si Han meant. Si Han. I'll line up. Yuanwan blinked and blinked again. She was in complete disbelief. The classy and different, unhumanly Si Han actually has an earthly side. Even he knew this was something a boyfriend should do. Yuanwan returned to her senses after a while and quickly said, It's okay, I'll do it. You should sit down and rest. I'm not that weak. Si Han stood his ground. Yuanwan didn't have a choice but to hug his arm. We'll line up together then. This time, Si Han didn't have a rebuttal. It was finally their turn, and Yuanwan happily bought some gigantic and colorful cotton candy. Si Han looked at the huge cotton candy that was even bigger than his face. Can we finish that? Sigh, and I was just thinking he has an earthly side. Yuanwan explained helplessly. Don't worry, we'll definitely finish it. It's just cotton candy, it's very soft and light. It disappears the moment it enters your mouth. It only looks huge. After Yuanwan spoke, she took the cotton candy from the young lady who kept staring at Si Han. You'll understand when you take a bite. Yuanwan placed the cotton candy in front of Si Han's mouth eagerly. Si Han frowned. It was obvious he couldn't accept such weird food. Yuanwan noticed Si Han wasn't moving and she couldn't wait, so she took a huge bite from the other side of the cotton candy. Oh, so sweet. Si Han went closer to try it, and indeed, it melted the moment it entered his mouth. He had never tried anything so novel before. Yuanwan probed eagerly. How is it? Sweet? Si Han stared her bright eyes. And, just after they finished the cotton candy, the movie started, so the two of them got up and entered the theater. Yuanwan introduced the movie excitedly. This is a film starring Chiao Kuexian. She's the Golden Globe winner for the Best Actress award this year. It's really worth a watch. Yuanwan suddenly remembered that the Golden Globe ceremony hadn't happened, and the prize hadn't been awarded in this life yet. It was due to take place in 3 days. So she quickly said, cough cough cough, I heard the news internally that the winner would be Chiao Kuexian. Not sure whether that's true. Anyway, I think this movie isn't bad. Phew, almost exposed myself. Chapter 528. A chance encounter. The movie showed scenes from a distant view of green hills and clear water to the bustling main street in Chang'an, instantly transporting the audience to a period of flourishing prosperity. After that, an old, interesting and secluded little courtyard was projected along with a number of water lilies dancing gently in the breeze and koi fish swimming among them. In a window, Xiao Kuexian was dressed in a white ancient costume with her eyes were lowered as she sat there quietly doing embroidery. When the first scene appeared, everyone's eyes lit up in front of the screen. For those who were accustomed to Xiao Kuexian's pretty and flirtatious image, this was the first time seeing her sweet-tempered and gentle side. One would definitely think of the phrase, "The tenderness when she looks down resembles a lotus flower shying from the cold breeze." Yi Wanwan couldn't help but cup her starry-eyed face. Aya, my goddess looks great even in these clothes, but I'm looking forward more to her character as an empress. Si Yihan was looking at the screen with his hand holding his head on one side. He looked sideways at his girlfriend who was completely starstruck with a woman at this moment. Yi Wanwan sat upright. All her attention was on admiring her goddess. This movie, Legend of the Quiet Girl, told the life story of a young lady who kept to herself but later became an empress. She remained single, dedicating her life to the country and gaining power. The female lead in the plot transformed from a naive and innocent 16-year-old teen to an empress in middle to old age. From beginning till end, Xiao Kuexian was the only one acting this character. This level of acting was very challenging. Female artists with a similar image to Xiao Kuexian mostly had to act in ugly roles in order to get any mainstream awards. They would have to act as either an educated youth from the countryside or a pitiful mother. This would then allow their acting to stand out. This time, Xiao Kuexian's image in the plot was clearly unpopular with the masses. The storyline was also commercialized, and with her naturally tan body, this movie was criticized by many. However, as a commercial film, it was obviously a success. With Xiao Kuexian as the main lead and Han Xianyu's song for the closing credits, the box office sales broke several records, and the song took the top spot of many great music charts. At this moment in the theaters, everyone's eyes were glued to the screen. They had a pretty good impression of the movie. Si Yihan's attitude was also better than Yi Wanwan imagined, and he didn't look like he was very bored. Yi Wanwan couldn't hold it in and asked, "Baby, how do you feel about this movie?" Si Yihan replied, "Not bad." When Yi Wanwan heard that, her eyes glistened instantly. Si Yihan actually said it's not bad. No wonder Xiao Kuexian won an award. Yi Wanwan was about to speak when her ears pricked up. She heard someone mentioning her alternate ego name, Yi Bai. What? What the hell? Did I hear wrong? Or does someone else have the same name? Yi Wanwan looked over at the first row and saw a guy and a girl. In the dark, she could see that the two of them had masks on. Wearing a mask at the movies? Also, why do the backs of these two people look somewhat familiar? Yi Wanwan grew more suspicious and she leaned forward slightly, trying her best to eavesdrop. Yi Bai? You mean that little handsome guy who really knew how to flirt? Cough cough, yes, maybe what Yi Bai said will come true, huh? I think your film isn't bad. So what if it's a commercial movie? Who said commercial movies can't win awards? Tisk, almost everyone told me not to get my hopes up because they're worried I'll be disappointed. That little handsome guy was the first person who had so much faith in me, and said I would definitely get the Best Actress award. Chapter 529. Failed flirtation. The two of them spoke very softly, but Yi Wanwan could more or less guess what they were saying. Listening up to this point, black lines formed on her forehead. Damn. Xiao Kuexian and Han Xianyu actually came to watch the movie sneakily at night, and I just happened to bump into them. After figuring out their identities, Yi Wanwan quickly moved backward and hid. Damn, just my luck. Actually bumping into Xiao Kuexian and Han Xianyu just by coming out for a movie. What is it? Si Yihan noticed Yi Wanwan's frantic expression and looked at her. Don't you like the female lead? Yi Wanwan whined. Yes. If I was disguised as a man, I would go up and say hello. But the problem is that I'm a girl right now. I'm dead if she finds out. She then leaned closer to Si Yihan and smiled as sweetly as possible. Of course, if baby won't get jealous or angry, it's fine even if I'm exposed. Si Han gave that little sly fox some side-eye and replied, "Hide yourself well." Yi Wanwan's head drooped in an instant. I knew it was impossible. Following that, the two of them continued watching the movie. Most of the couples watching the movie had other plans in mind. They started kissing and hugging halfway through the movie. While for Yi Wanwan and Si Han, Yi Wanwan was so serious about the movie that she almost started taking notes, while Si Han kept a cold expression the whole time while his eyes were focused on the screen. They came for the movie and they were really there to watch the movie. Seated next to Yi Wanwan was a young couple hugging and getting intimate. HNG. Why are their eyes glued to the screen? Is Chiao Koexian that nice to watch? No. How could Chiao Koexian possibly be nicer to watch than you? Liar. Didn't you say Chiao Koexian's your goddess? That's not true. My goddess is obviously you, alright? How could I ever have a goddess other than you? Chiao Koexian can't even compare to the tip of your finger. Yi Wanwan's lips twitched when she heard that. My friend, your survival skills are quite something. The girl seemed to be placated and was happy again as she pecked the guy's cheek. That's more like it. Watching this pair of lovebirds, Yi Wanwan cupped her chin with her hand and realized she seemed to have neglected Si Han. Should I act cute or something too? Hence, Yi Wanwan coughed lightly and turned to Si Han. Baby, do you think Chiao Koexian is pretty? Si Han's eyes left the screen and looked at Yi Wanwan. From his expression, it looked like he thought her question to be somewhat lame, but he still responded. Didn't pay much attention. Huh. Then what have you been watching? Yi Wanwan was confused. Si Han. Although this movie is fiction, the era featured in the movie was the Song Dynasty. However, there were many mistakes in terms of the costumes and props used. Yi Wanwan. You won. Yi Wanwan's acting cute scheme ended right there and then. Just as she was criticizing her own boyfriend's EQ, the young couple next to her knocked over the popcorn in their hands, and the popcorn scattered all over the front row. Ah! What happened? The audience in the front row turned their heads and complained, including these two people. Chiao Koexian and Han Xianyu. Things happen way too fast. Yi Wanwan hadn't expected it at all, so she wasn't prepared to hide. Just like that, she watched as Chiao Koexian and Han Xianyu turned around. Shit. I'm screwed. Damn it. Just as Yi Wanwan's heart started racing, a shadow covered her. Si Han's icy lips landed on hers. His wide palm pushed the back of her head forward, blocking her from view. Chapter 530. High IQ to offset the low EQ. He was so close to her that she could smell his breath. His cool, thin lips enveloped hers and she was momentarily shrouded by his cold, raw breath. All this happened in 1 second. When Yi Wanwan realized she was being kissed all of a sudden, she was stunned and her eyes were wide open with shock. Her heart started racing uncontrollably. Si Han's eyes were open too. His forehead lightly touched hers. His warm breath and her ambiguous feelings intertwined while his eyes locked onto hers. Yi Wanwan was faced with his bottomless eyes, and her heart inexplicably started to pound faster and faster, as if it wanted to escape from this feeling of almost losing control. She whispered, "Oh baby, you're so smart. So what if he doesn't have enough EQ? He can use his IQ to offset it, right?" Si Han stared at her for a second without speaking and leaned over once again. This time, the kiss wasn't just like a dragonfly skimming across the water. Instead, he opened her lips with his tongue and kissed her hard as if he was trying to dominate a territory. In the front row, Chiao Koexian looked at the couple, unaffected by everything and kissing fiercely. She shrugged and didn't think much of it. As for Han Xianyu, aside from feeling somewhat awkward when he saw them, a flash of suspicion appeared subtly in his eyes. With one glance, he found that the man looked quite familiar, similar to Yi Bai's friend he met that one time. As Yi Bai's friend had a truly unique disposition, Han Xianyu felt that he couldn't be mistaken for somebody else even with just a quick glance. However, he didn't manage to see the girl next to him who was being covered. He almost misunderstood his relationship with Yi Bai previously, but now it seemed very clear what this person's sexual orientation was. However, he really wanted to know what kind of girl could make an ice-cold and distant man so passionate, and behave so disinhibited in a place like the cinema, acting like other normal young couples. Obviously, no matter how curious Han Xianyu was, it wasn't nice if he kept staring at the couple being intimate. After a short while, he coughed lightly and turned around. Si Yihan's kiss continued. Yi Wanwan was forced into a corner, and she felt the air in her chest depleting. Her head was muddled by the lack of oxygen. Yi Wanwan noticed from the corner of her eyes that Xiao Kexian and Han Xianyu had already turned back. Her breathing got heavy. She blinked, subtly moved backward and said, That's enough already." Si Yihan's light panting stopped, but his gaze never left her little face. It was almost like there were flames in his dark eyes, looking extremely menacing. Yi Wanwan blinked and swallowed nervously. Si Yihan lifted his arm. His long, slender fingers lightly brushed against the girl's red and swollen lips, then slid smoothly down her arm, and held her little hand as their fingers intertwined. After that, he turned to her again and planted kisses on her lips. One gentle kiss after another landed on her, but this made her heart thump even harder than Si Yihan's strong and forceful style earlier. Yi Wanwan had to admit that although he had lousy skills, his ability to adapt was too quick. Chapter 531. Date once every week from voluntarily helping her line up to the kiss. She even condemned his skills before. Although the kiss had ended, Si Yihan hadn't let go of her hand. As for the rest of the movie, Yi Wanwan didn't pay much attention to it. "Oh, it actually feels like we're dating now." It wasn't easy. After the movie ended, Yi Wanwan waited until she was sure Xiao Kexian and Han Xianyu had left before leaving the theater with Si Yihan. Outside the theater entrance, Sui was already waiting there. Sui glanced at his watch and turned to the entrance. Just as expected, he saw two familiar figures. When the two people came closer, Sui couldn't help but widen his eyes in surprise. He realized that his master was actually holding Yi Wanwan's hand voluntarily. Sui didn't dare to believe his eyes. If it was any other intimate act, he wouldn't be so shocked. But a test of EQ and fun such as hand-holding was a totally different issue to his master. He napped, ate a meal, caught a movie, and held her little hand. He suddenly realized his master was expressing more emotion and becoming more like a regular person. Miss Wanwan is simply too amazing. When they reached the front of the car, Sui finally returned to his senses and quickly opened the car door. After they got in the car, Si Yihan returned to his usual iciness. Yi Wanwan moved over, attempting to claim credit. "How was it? Don't you feel so much better after walking around? You're home too much. You should come out more often." Yi Wanwan gave it some thought then continued. "How about we go out at least once every week?" Si Yihan responded plainly, "Sure." Sui, who was driving, glanced at his master's calm face that didn't show any anticipation. "All right, I'll just take his word for it." At this moment, a phone started ringing. It was Yi Wanwan's. Yi Wanwan's expression changed the second she saw the caller ID. "Darn. Han Xianyu's calling. Why's he calling me at this hour? Could it be he found out we were at the movies just now?" Yi Wanwan felt extremely guilty. Si Yihan turned to her. "Logically speaking, no." Yi Wanwan was speechless. "May I ask where this logic came from?" Her phone rang for a long while. It'd be suspicious if she didn't pick up, so Yi Wanwan could only answer the call, lower her voice, switch to her male voice and say nervously, "Hello? Xianyu. Why are you calling me at this hour? Is anything the matter?" "Nothing much, just wanted to see if you'd like to attend the Golden Orchid Awards ceremony?" Han Xianyu asked. "A Golden Orchid Awards ceremony?" Yi Wanwan was stunned then said, "I definitely can't make it for that. Xianjia got you an entry ticket. Let's go together if you're free." Han Xianyu said. Yi Wanwan was a little shocked. She never expected that Xiao Kexian would invite a nobody like her. This might be a little awkward, right? "It's nothing, just come along. Anyway, a ticket has already been prepared for you. When Xianjia and I went to catch the movie Legend of the Quiet Girl today, we even talked about you. I commented that the movie wasn't bad and your predictions might really come true." Han Xianyu joked. Yi Wanwan coughed lightly. "It was just me spouting nonsense when I was drunk. Please apologize to Xianjia on my behalf. I hope she doesn't mind. Han Xianyu laughed. Relax, Xinjia didn't mind at all. Oh right, guess who I bumped into at the cinema? Chapter 532. His girlfriend is too cute. When Yi Wanwan heard that question, her heart started thumping again, and she asked nervously, who? That friend of yours, 9th C. Han Xianyu replied. Yi Wanwan was stunned. Han Xianyu actually recognized Si Yi Han? Then aren't I in danger too? However, Si Yi Han's personality was too unique. It wasn't surprising he was recognized instantly. On the other end, Han Xianyu continued. He came with his girlfriend and sat behind us. But there were many people there, so I didn't say hi. From Han Xianyu's tone, he probably hadn't recognized her, and she heaved a sigh of relief. What a coincidence. I saw he was quite loving towards his girlfriend, and I was slapped with a face of dog shit. I couldn't believe that your friend who's always so distant and indifferent could actually be so passionate with his girlfriend. Han Xianyu exclaimed in surprise. Ha! Si Yi Han was passionate? The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips twitched, and she turned to a certain ice sculpture next to her and said seriously, that must be because his girlfriend's too cute. Han Xianyu laughed. Maybe so. As the saying goes, even heroes have a weakness for the charms of a beautiful woman. Before I almost thought, the two of you had that kind of relationship. Yi Wanwan choked and said in a stern voice once again, you were overthinking things. We just enjoy messing around once in a while. I guess so. Han Xianyu said. Then I'll talk to you again soon. See you. Let me know when you'll be back at the apartment, and I'll give you the entry tickets. Alright, thank you, and thank Xinjia for me too. Yi Wanwan stopped rejecting his offer. After she hung up, Yi Wanwan patted her chest, relieved her disguise carried her through. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Luckily you reacted swiftly, and Han Xianyu only managed to see you but not me. This was a blessing in disguise. It also got rid of the rumors of us being gay. When Si Yi Han heard the last line, his expression revealed a slight unhappiness. It was obvious a certain someone didn't want this scandal to go away. 2 days later, 11 finished all his missions and recovered somewhat from his injuries, so Yi Wanwan officially started training under 11. She still needed to attend the Golden Orchid Award presentation tonight. In the courtyard, Si Yi Han sat in the shade nearby, drinking milk while a white tiger laid next to him. He used to drink a cup of coffee or rich tea daily, but these weren't allowed by Yi Wanwan, so he had to switch to milk. Currently, 11 stood in front of Si Yi Han, asking for instructions. 9th Master, may I know to what extent should Miss Wanwan's training go? Si Yi Han placed his pink cup down lightly. In 3 months, make her body strong enough to match her skills. 11 knitted his brows slightly. 3 months? Wouldn't that be too intense? Si Yi Han replied plainly, no. 11 could only agree to it. All right. After he received his orders, 11 waited at the nearby training ground he prepared at the last minute for Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan changed into a light outfit. Like before, she walked a couple of circles around Great White until she was able to sneakily touch his hair. Only after doing so would she be satisfied. After touching Great White, Yi Wanwan ran to 11 excitedly. Coach, I'm ready. What are we learning today? 11 looked at Yi Wanwan being so obedient. He silently glanced at his own broken leg and had an indescribable look on his face. Chapter 533. Can't you tell that someone couldn't bear to let her suffer? This was probably the most challenging task he'd ever undertaken. So, what should I teach her? How do I even teach her? Thinking back, wise master giving me harder and harder tasks consecutively lately. Seeing that 11 was standing there like he had a bad headache, Yi Wanwan blinked and asked apologetically, Coach, what is it? Am I too lousy and difficult to train? 11. It's not about whether it's difficult or not anymore. 11 was on his last breath as he glanced in the direction of his master nearby. He was casually leaning in his chair, completely unaware of 11's sorrowful gaze. 11 didn't have a choice. He braced himself and asked, How about this, Miss Wanwan? From what I observed and understand, you rarely exercise normally, so why don't we start from the basics to increase your stamina? Sure. Yuan was agreeable. Then, since today's the first day, you should run 8. 11 was about to say 8 kilometers when he received a piercing glare from his master. So he changed course. You should run 5. That threatening gaze remained. 11 could only change once again. 3 kilometers. Master, you were the one who wanted me to complete this task in 3 months. Now that training's begun, you think it's too tough? 10 kilometers was simply a warm-up to him. He hadn't even said 10 kilometers and actually dropped it to 8. Yet that was still. With this training regime, how can I possibly complete training in 3 months? 11's heart felt so torn. Yuan. All right. Yuan started running, and 11 went into the car, slowly following her. He definitely had to be with her from beginning till end, but too bad his leg was broken and could only resort to using a car that was similar to a buggy and needed someone else to drive. The environment around Jean Garden was clear and crisp. It was great for running. In the driver's seat, the bodyguard couldn't help but voice his opinion. Sigh, Captain, isn't 3 kilometers too short a distance? 11 revealed a look of helplessness. Can't you tell that someone couldn't bear to let her suffer? How could I make Miss Wan run any further? In response, the bodyguard looked speechless. Couldn't bear to? Are you kidding? With her capabilities, isn't running 3 kilometers equivalent to playing? What's there to be so torn about? In the end, before completing her first kilometer, Yuan was already on the verge of collapsing. Although she made a solemn vow to improve her skills, the process was far more difficult than she imagined. Due to not exercising for a long time, Yuan started dragging her feet as though they were as heavy as lead. She felt as though her throat had been coated by ash, causing every breath to pull at her lungs so badly that it became extremely painful. Her sore muscles that hadn't fully recovered became even sorer. She felt her entire body undergoing unbearable pain. Yuan sat comfortably in the garden that Yuan occasionally passed while running. Originally, Yuan was able to persevere, but once she passed by the garden and saw Yuan, a momentary weakness instantly sapped away her resolve. She glanced over at the man with a pitiful look in her eyes. Baby, can we lessen the intensity of the training? I can't run any further, it hurts. Yuan looked at her adorable yet pale face, and he stood up immediately to walk over. Where does it hurt? My chest, my calves, and my ankles hurt. Yuan's manner of speech became increasingly distraught. From the side, 11 got out of the car and explained himself. Ninth Master, this is a normal circumstance from not working out for a long time. There's no need. Yuan spoke as though he hadn't heard 11. We'll end it here for today. 11. Master, my training plan is already extremely difficult to carry out. I beg you to please stop interfering with it. Chapter 534. As long as you're within my line of sight. As for the bodyguard at the back, his face was in a daze when he watched how Yuan, who had barely completed the first kilometer, acted like a spoiled girl. Not to mention 11, but even Great White, who was behind Yuan, raised its eyebrows as though it was expressing its disdain. Yuan knew she had never run a kilometer in her life, but at the moment she was merely whining, so she quickly spoke up. No, I'll keep running. At worst I'll just run slower. Yuan frowned. Yuan showed him her best puppy eyes. Baby, you get on the car too. That way, I can look at you and run with even more energy. Yuan revealed a serious look. You sure you're all right? I'm fine. I can keep going for a bit longer. For some reason, when I saw you. Hearing her words, Yuan's complexion turned much gentler. With that said, Yuan got into the car as well. The car drove ahead slowly, while Yuan followed along behind. The bodyguard was in a complete state of confusion, as he was unable to connect the murderous devil woman from the other night to the frail sister in front of him, who couldn't even complete 1 kilometer. Hey Captain, are you sure they're the same person? The bodyguard couldn't hold it in, and asked 11 quietly. Right as 11 was about to speak, his gaze changed slightly. You slowed down the car? The bodyguard shook his head. No, why? 11 muttered to himself. If you didn't slow down, it means that Miss Wan's picking up speed. The bodyguard, who was driving, was stunned for a moment, then he took a glance in his rearview mirror. Wow, it's true. She's catching up to my car. Ah, she overtook us. While they were conversing, Yi Wanwan ran in front of the car. Yi Wanwan yelled to the people in the car while running. Don't slow down. I have to be able to see your master in front of me. Otherwise, I can't run. I got it. The bodyguard looked a little flushed and quickly sped up. Wait, we absolutely didn't slow down, okay? Damn. Something's not right. Why's she moving faster and faster? According to their observations, Yi Wanwan had already reached her limit, and under such circumstances, a normal person couldn't run any faster. So why was she running even faster? Could it be that that's how her body reacts when it reaches its limit? Sometimes when a person's body reached its limit, there'd be a period when their steps felt lighter, but this would only happen for a very short while, just like the radiance of a setting sun. 11 and the bodyguard had roughly the same theory in mind, but slowly, their expressions started to change. In the blink of an eye, Yi Wanwan had run 3 kilometers without stopping at all. 11 looked in the distance and was about to shout stop, but Yi Wanwan had already sprinted far away. Ninth Master? 11 turned to see Yi Han to ask for instructions. In the end, his master's eyes were focused on the girl running behind the car, and he didn't seem to have any intentions of stopping her. Thus, 11 kept silent and kept watching. To Yi Wanwan's surprise, she realized she hadn't collapsed and her steps became lighter and faster. She couldn't help but look at Yi Han in shock. Ah, baby, this is really helpful. I realize that as long as you're within my line of sight, I won't feel tired at all. It's amazing. Yi Han sat in the car with his forehead resting on his hand. He looked at her high-spirited little face, and a subtle smile flashed across his face. 11 and a certain bodyguard who were being force-fed with dog food. Chapter 535. Sounds formidable from 1 kilometer to 3 kilometers to 5 kilometers to 10 kilometers. 11 and the bodyguard went from helpless to surprised to astonished. At the end of it, they were completely dumbstruck. 11 looked at the stopwatch in his hands and took a big gulp, then he glanced at his master. How does she even need 3 months? She just got accustomed to the 1 kilometer run. Yet she's already become so vigorous and lively? This is just too twisted. Actually, he also assumed Yi Wanwan was simply stronger than ordinary people at first, but he hadn't expected her stamina would be so terrifying as well. So he really didn't have anything to teach her. Alas, while 11 was deep in thought, he met Yi Wanwan's glistening eyes. Coach 11, I'm done running. What are we learning next? 11 choked and turned to his master with a pleading gaze. Yi Han looked at the girl beside him and asked, What would you like to learn? Yi Wanwan immediately said, Obviously I want to learn real combat skills. Just running alone is too boring. Yi Han, let 11 take you to the training grounds. Yi Wanwan nodded continuously. Great. Baby, you don't have to accompany me anymore. It's time for your acupuncture, so I'll head over to Dr. Sun's when I'm done with training. Yi Han. N. 11, who hadn't been able to refute from beginning till the end. Training grounds. It was bright and early and the gentle breeze was comforting and satisfying, sweeping away all traces of weariness. Coach 11, I'm here. Yi Wanwan had changed into her sportswear and tied her long black hair into a ponytail, looking bold and prepared. Right. 11 looked at Yi Wanwan and nodded reluctantly. Coach 11, what are we doing today? Yi Wanwan asked eagerly. Cough, let's do this. I'll teach you some fighting techniques. After a moment's deliberation, 11 made up his mind. That night at the bar, Yi Wanwan's main advantage was her strength. If she learned some fighting techniques, her fighting skills would definitely be even better. Yi Wanwan was extremely excited. Coach 11's fighting techniques are said to be some of the best among all the bodyguards, right? Hearing that, 11 went blank. He wanted to speak but kept quiet. Before he became a bodyguard, he was very confident about his fighting skills and never feared anyone. He even challenged the captain of the bodyguards several times before. However, he was always defeated by Lu Ying without any hope of retaliation. After that, 11 realized his fighting skills and stamina were only second best. Although it had always been his dream to be the head captain, he had never been able to fulfill it. Luing was like an unmoving mountain, blocking his way. Also, he was head captain now, but only for a while. Soon enough, it'd be time for the head captain assessment, and he would still be defeated by Luing like before. This temporary status of head captain wasn't glorious at all to 11. It was like a curse, reminding and ridiculing him constantly. Coach 11? Yi Wanwan noticed 11's expression and knitted her brows. Oh, it's nothing. 11 returned to his senses and composed himself. He looked at Yi Wanwan dressed in sportswear and said, "Martial arts are how the Westerners call it, but in our country, we call it Kung Fu. A method using fists and feet or bladed weapons to strike a severe blow to your enemies." Sounds impressive, Yi Wanwan mumbled. Chapter 536. Left speechless, Miss Wanwan, this is only natural. Among all the martial arts, the most formidable one is known as the skill of death. 11 spoke seriously. Skill of death. Yi Wanwan looked at 11, eager to hear more. That's right, 11 said. The skill of death, as the name implies, is used to murder a person. Once honed to perfection, each move and form can take away a person's life. The moves are vicious and ordinary folks are unable to resist it. Yi Wanwan pondered for a moment. Then what if the skill of death meets a gun? 11 choked. I must really learn how to answer her questions. Can the skill of death block bullets? Yi Wanwan asked with complete seriousness. 11 started sweating. I guess, that's quite impossible. Is the skill of death so powerful that it can block all firearms? Yi Wanwan asked again. 11 was speechless once again. I don't think so. Then why don't you just give me a gun? Yi Wanwan looked at him oddly. Cough cough. Miss Wanwan, you can't put it that way. No matter how great a gun is, it's considered an external force, but if you pick up martial arts, you can rely on yourself. You see, a gun may go off accidentally, it may be lost and the bullets may also run out, but once you master the art of Kung Fu, it'll help you throughout your life. Miss Wanwan, do you see the logic in this? No, I'm very careful. I won't lose a gun and will take care of it properly so it'll never go off by accident. It's true that the bullets may run out, so you should just give me more so I won't have any shortages, right? Yi Wanwan answered seriously. At that moment, 11 stared at Yi Wanwan. Completely speechless, the corners of his lips twitched like he wanted to say something, but nothing came out of his mouth in the end. Cough cough. 11 changed the subject. Miss Wanwan, it's getting late. Let's go to the training room to practice martial arts. Finally, 11 had no choice but to change the subject because if the conversation went on, he would lose his mind. Yi Wanwan and 11 walked side by side towards the training room. While making their way there, many bodyguards doing their morning exercises greeted 11. Good morning, Captain 11. Hey, Captain. A number of bodyguards gathered together and sneered when they saw 11, emphasizing the word captain. 11 knitted his brows. Tisk, why's he acting all cocky now? Does he really think he's our head captain? Jokes aside, it'll be the head captain assessment soon. I wonder how long he can occupy this post for. There's going to be a good show during the head captain's assessment this time. I heard Captain Luing trained several new recruits who were pretty good, ready to fight over the post of division captain. At that point, 11 might not even be able to keep his original post as a leader, and won't be able to even dream about being the head captain. Who is he to take this post anyway? But I'm really curious. 11 has been with that woman Yi Wanwan every day lately. Could it be that he's trying to win favor with her to keep his post as head captain? TSK, are you kidding me? The head captain assessment is an open competition and the strongest will take on the role of head captain. It doesn't rely on the opinion of a certain someone. That woman is definitely a little weird. Even Captain Luing was injured by her. Could it be 11's planning to ask her to teach him a move or two? A certain bodyguard speculated. Hearing that, the other bodyguards started laughing. That woman only has brute force, that's all. That night at the bar, if it wasn't for Master's sake, Captain Luing would have beaten her to death with a single punch. That's true. That woman has our master to back her up, after all. Captain Luing wouldn't dare to lay a finger on her. Aside from Yi Wanwan, if an ordinary person isn't allowed to retaliate, they would also be badly injured no matter how strong they were. Chapter 537. An agonizing coaching session not far off. 11 balled up his fists tightly. His face was so gloomy that it looked as if flames would sprout out of his head. The other bodyguards didn't lower their voices, so naturally, 11 heard everything. Indeed, just as those bodyguards said, he might not be able to beat Luing during the head captain tryouts this time. Luing groomed a couple pretty good new bodyguards in order to obtain the position of team leader. Maybe after the assessment, 11's old position as team leader might be snatched away, and he would just become an ordinary bodyguard. Coach 11, I believe you can do it. Yi Wanwan noticed 11 didn't look too good, so she tried to encourage him. Thank you, Miss Wanwan. I'll work hard. 11 nodded. Although 11 sounded determined, his eyes were dull. It was obvious he wasn't very confident. After some time, 11 brought Yi Wanwan to the training room. Captain. A few bodyguards who were training immediately jumped up and greeted him loudly the moment they saw him. These few bodyguards were members of 11th Dark Team 1, and were very loyal towards him. Good morning, Miss Wanwan. Following that, they greeted Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan nodded. Good morning. You guys move aside first. I'll be teaching Miss Wanwan some fighting techniques today, 11 said. Hearing that, the bodyguards wiped the sweat off their curious faces with a towel, and quickly sat down a distance away to observe. 11 stood in the middle of the ring. Miss Wanwan, the first step to learning martial arts isn't attacking but defending. Today, I'll start teaching you defense. I'll listen carefully to Coach 11's instructions. Yi Wanwan laughed. Alright, I'll demonstrate. We'll start by you attacking me with all your strength, 11 instructed. Okay. Yi Wanwan nodded. The second she extended her arm, 11 suddenly exclaimed. Wait. Miss Wanwan, don't use all your strength first. Use 60% of it. When he thought back to the strength Yi Wanwan exhibited that night at the bar, 11 felt terrified. Furthermore, his injuries weren't fully healed yet. Alright. After a moment, Yi Wanwan clenched her fist and threw a punch at 11. Pow. 11 was quick. He gripped Yi Wanwan's incoming jab in a flash. Miss Wanwan C. 11 intercepted Yi Wanwan's attack firmly, and was just about to give some pointers when Yi Wanwan flung her left fist out of instinct and hit 11 right in his face. Ayo. 11 took a few steps back and held his face. Miss Wanwan, why didn't you follow the sequence properly? 11 rubbed his own face. Skill of death. If you don't die, I won't live, so do I really have to act accordingly to the sequence? Yi Wanwan said doubtfully. Seeing that, some bodyguards burst out in laughter. Miss Wanwan's explanation did make sense, and their Captain 11 had been taken advantage of. This time, I'll attack you instead. You can defend just as I did now, 11 said. Sure. Yi Wanwan understood. 11 moved forward a couple steps, lifted his right arm, and attacked Yi Wanwan. 11 already lowered his strength on purpose, so he wouldn't hurt Miss Wanwan. However, the second he threw this punch, Yi Wanwan slapped 11's body, probably out of instinct again. 11 was dumbfounded. Didn't we agree we'll just be practicing her defense? Why must she hit me? Miss Wanwan, didn't we agree that you'll just be defending? 11 was at a loss. Coach 11 isn't attacking the best defense. Yi Wanwan mumbled and even gave 11 a look as if she was questioning his ability to teach. 11 didn't know what to say anymore. Ha 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 ha. The surrounding bodyguards rocked back and forth in laughter. Miss Ye's understanding of martial arts is really unique, huh? Chapter 538. Spotted his flaws, Miss Wanwan. I'll use a martial arts move to attack you this time. Try to defend and you may attack as well. 11 composed himself. At this moment, 11 had already figured out Yi Wanwan's patterns, and he didn't believe he would be attacked again. This technique is called 3 rapid strikes, and I'll launch 3 strikes in quick succession. Miss Wanwan, watch carefully and learn. After briefing Miss Wanwan about the details of this technique, 11 immediately made his first move. 11 was extremely swift. Yi Wanwan even heard a swishing sound. In a flash, Yi Wanwan's mind went blank. Everything around her stopped, and 11's move seemed to slow down in front of her. Instinctively, Yi Wanwan threw a punch. This punch actually bypassed 11's move. It turned at a tricky angle and brutally landed on 11's head. Pow! Under all the bodyguards' dazed expressions, their captain 11 was punched in the head and was sent flying 10 steps back. After 11 got up, he widened his eyes and stared at Yi Wanwan in utter disbelief. His impression of Yi Wanwan was that she was simply stronger than ordinary people. But just now, the punch Yi Wanwan threw was extremely fast without any fanciful techniques, clean and clear-cut like she was really out to murder somebody. How is this possible? 11 was stunned. Even Yi Wanwan herself was dumbstruck, much less 11, as she looked at her own fists. During that second just now, she really didn't do anything intentionally, but it was a natural reaction from her body. Furthermore, the technique 11 presented was completely flawed in her eyes. It was no different from a child playing house. What just happened? Didn't see it clearly. It seems like Miss Wanwan sent Captain 11 flying with a punch. It's probably a fluke. It must be. The bodyguards looked at each other, confused. 11 knitted his brows tightly. He stood rooted on the ground and stared at Yi Wanwan. And he also started believing it was a fluke like the other bodyguards said. Miss Wanwan, how did you do that just now? 11 asked. I'm not too sure myself. Yi Wanwan looked dumbstruck. Let's do it again then. 11 didn't believe it could happen again. After that, 11 returned to the ring and concentrated all his energy in his fist, then aimed it towards Yi Wanwan again. Pow! In the next second, a familiar sound resounded throughout the training room. 11 was punched by Yi Wanwan once again. This time, Yi Wanwan clearly saw through 11's flaws. Again. 11 repeated. Pow! 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 Within 1 minute, 11 used numerous martial arts techniques, but was still beaten up by Yi Wanwan 7 to 8 times in a row. Each time 11 used his full strength to attack. Yi Wanwan's mind went blank and entered a weird state of mind. Her heart was completely calm without the slightest hint of anxiety or panic. She saw through 11's weaknesses and her body performed the necessary adjustments before attacking 11. She felt this way before but never really paid much attention to it, and it had also never appeared so plainly before. The other bodyguards were speechless. Who was the one who said Miss Wanwan only has brute force? How is this just brute force? Each time she attacked, it was swift and ruthless. She only used one move, but it was the most direct blow without any delays at all. What's the skill of death? This is the skill of death. The skill of death taught by 11 was merely to kill and wear the enemy out. Other than that, it had no use at all. While Yi Wanwan's display seemed simple and rough, it was a very good fit with the name skill of death. Chapter 539. Could it be that I'm a kung fu master? Yi Wanwan scanned her own hands in shock and her mind was in a whirl. Miss Wanwan, this is... The other bodyguards looked at one another in disbelief. As a bodyguard in the C family, each one of them was an elite, so they naturally could tell that Yi Wanwan's moves were clean and decisive. If Yi Wanwan had a dagger in her hands, 11 would have died over 10 times. 11 stared at her like he had just seen a ghost. The kung fu technique he was immensely proud of was simply blocked by Yi Wanwan. None of his moves worked at all. No matter how swiftly he moved, Yi Wanwan always beat him to it, and her moves were extremely tricky. He wasn't able to anticipate them. Are you losing to me on purpose? After quite a while, Yi Wanwan looked at 11 suspiciously. 11 was the C family's bodyguard and also the leader of Dark Team 1. Needless to say, he was strong and skilled. Yi Wanwan had no lack of understanding about herself. She had just learned about wrestling today, yet she was able to take him down every single time. 11 stared at Yi Wanwan, and the corners of his mouth started twitching, but no words came out. In the beginning, 11 did give in to her purposely just as Yi Wanwan said, but after that, 11 used his full strength. Yet he was still unable to dodge Yi Wanwan's attacks. Whether it was speed or strength or timing of the attacks, it was as if Yi Wanwan had gone through meticulous planning. She took control first, causing 11 to always be in a passive state without the energy to fight back. Miss Wanwan, there's indeed more to you than meets the eye. A while later 11 spoke up. At this moment, Yi Wanwan's face was filled with doubt. Judging by 11's expression, he really looked like he hadn't lost to her. Was it possible that Yi Wanwan had a legendary bone structure, a one-of-a-kind gift? Coach 11, let me use my full strength to attack. Yi Wanwan took a deep breath. She couldn't forget that weird state of mind. She was just in like she entered some kind of mysterious state. Her heart was as calm as still water while her instincts created a response. All right, 11 nodded. His palm rapidly moved towards Yi Wanwan. Following the movement of 11's palm, Yi Wanwan inexplicably felt threatened, and went into that mysterious state again, and scanned everything around her coldly. Pow! Suddenly, Yi Wanwan lifted her right arm and knocked it against 11's chin in an instant. Even though 11's move was fast, he wasn't faster than Yi Wanwan. His palm was still in midair, and before he could get close to Yi Wanwan's body, his entire body was flung off by Yi Wanwan. People all said that learning martial arts was extremely torturous and as difficult as flying, but to Yi Wanwan, this wasn't the case at all and it didn't seem challenging to her. Could it be that I'm a kung fu master? Yi Wanwan retracted her fists. She felt a little weird in her heart. She only thought she had a great memory and perceptive skills, but she thought she was all talk and was very weak at fighting. After today's intensive training, however, she discovered she had such talent in kung fu. Huh? Coach 11. I think I can go faster. Please continue. Yi Wanwan watched as 11 got up. Hearing what Yi Wanwan said, 11 shook his head like a rattle and sobbed. Miss Wanwan, no more really? It's fine, let's try once more. Yi Wanwan tried to persuade him patiently. Miss Wanwan, if we keep going, I might lose my life. 11's face was swollen and bruised. He never wanted to fight with Yi Wanwan ever again. Chapter 540. Please take me as your disciple. Seeing as Yi Wanwan still wanted to speak, 11 quickly turned to the bodyguards outside the ring and ordered, all of you come over and spar with Miss Wanwan. Ha! The bodyguards who had been belly laughing had their smiles frozen on their faces. They could no longer laugh. Yi Wanwan had such a weird talent, and they all witnessed how 11 couldn't even take her on. If they stepped up, wasn't that just asking to be beaten? However, since 11 already made the order, these bodyguards couldn't refuse. They could only brace themselves and walk into the ring. Pow! Boom! Thump! The bodyguards' cries echoed throughout the training room continuously. 7 minutes later, a couple bodyguards had bruised and swollen faces like 11, and they looked at Yi Wanwan with admiration and respect. Although they knew Yi Wanwan was powerful when they watched her from afar, it was a totally different feeling having to experience it firsthand. These bodyguards bragged they were elites, but in front of Yi Wanwan, they weren't even worth a mention. They couldn't imagine how a weak girl could possess such terrifying energy. Are you guys really not going easy on me? Yi Wanwan looked at 11 and the bodyguards who had their faces bruised. No. One of the more delicate-looking bodyguards was the most brutally beaten up by Yi Wanwan. He shook his head nonstop and was stammering. They had tried their best. They had already put in all their effort, and if they gave in to Yi Wanwan, they'd probably be beaten to death by her. Yi Wanwan rubbed her chin and thought. She really hadn't expected that she would be so talented in martial arts. She hadn't trained for long and already was able to beat up the coach. If she trained for another few years, wouldn't she be invincible? With that thought, her interest was piqued and a tinge of excitement appeared in her eyes. Come, all of you attack me at once. Use all your force to attack me. No. Miss Wanwan, please let me go. Miss Wanwan, we don't have any grudge against each other. Wanwan. Miss Mississippi. We can't defeat you, you're too strong. One of the bodyguards stammered. He looked very delicate and instinctively took a few steps back. Miss Wanwan, please take me as your disciple. Suddenly, 11 walked to Yi Wanwan, bent his body 90 degrees and gave Yuanwan a deep bow. Seeing what 11 was doing, Yuanwan was stunned. Ah, take him as my disciple? How did me and 11 switch roles all of a sudden? 11's clearly the coach while I'm the student. Coach 11, what do you mean by this? Yuanwan was taken aback. Miss Wanwan, I'm serious. I know I'm not good enough, so I hope Miss Wanwan wouldn't mind to teach me some techniques. I want to fight for this post of head captain. 11 gritted his teeth. Wanwan, Miss, please take me as well. The delicate-looking bodyguard stammered. Copying 11, he bowed deeply towards Yuanwan. However, his stuttering was quite serious and everyone started getting nervous for him when they heard what he said, almost entering a cold sweat on his behalf. Miss Wanwan, what he wants to say is that he would like you to also accept him as your disciple and teach him some kung fu. One of the bodyguards couldn't listen any further and intervened. Chapter 541. If things go wrong, right, that's right. What he said was, right. The delicate-looking bodyguard stuttered and nodded continuously. I wish to fight for the post of team leader. This time. Damn, he said he wants to fight for the position of team leader. This has always been his goal and dream. He hopes Miss Wanwan can take him as a disciple and help him fulfill his wish. An impatient onlooker helped him finish his sentence in one breath. Right, that's right, he's right. The stutterer nodded nonstop. Miss Wanwan, please. Cold sweat started forming on Yuanwan's forehead. Wait. You guys want me to take you on as disciples? Do all of you have some weird misunderstanding about me? Everyone, including 11 and the bodyguard who stuttered, shook their heads in unison. Not at all, alright? They really misunderstood her in the past, but now everything was as clear as day. 11 said with a serious expression. Miss Wanwan, we're completely serious. I've practiced martial arts for many years now and have reached a bottleneck. I can't advance no matter how hard I try. Miss Wanwan has amazing perception skills and even after exchanging only a couple moves with you just now, it's benefited me. If Miss Wanwan is willing to take me on, even if you provide me with only 1 or 2 tips, 11 would be extremely grateful. The stutterer knew he couldn't properly say what he was thinking, but thankfully, the captain already said everything on his mind and so, he nodded in agreement. Just like Captain 11, please. Miss Wanwan agree. I want to be strong. Yuanwan hadn't even returned to her senses from the sudden transformation to a kung fu teacher, when her own coach and a bodyguard started pleading for her to take them on as disciples. Her entire mind went blank. The problem is, I really don't know anything about this. Wouldn't I be setting your progress back and misleading you? Yuanwan replied with a throbbing headache. 11 lowered his eyes and looked quite glum. Miss Wanwan thinks I'm not good enough? Yuanwan. I've always been a weak chicken. Why would I think this captain isn't good enough? Where's he getting this from? Yuanwan felt this situation was too absurd and obviously didn't want to agree. But she couldn't handle the pestering of these 2 people, so in the end, she had no choice but to say, I agree. Hearing what Yuanwan said, the 2 people were overjoyed and they wanted to express their gratitude at first, but were stopped by Yuanwan instantly. Yuanwan continued sternly, but I have to make it clear first. I'm not very sure of this myself, so I can't promise I can teach you guys anything. I was forced into this, and if things go wrong, you're not allowed to complain about me to your master Si Han. Teacher, you're too modest. 11 was stirred up. After experiencing Yuanwan's frightening strength firsthand, who would believe she wasn't sure what she was doing? Miss Wanwan, we would like a teacher as well. Suddenly, the rest of the bodyguards stepped forward eagerly. All right, we'll talk about this again after the assessment is over. The teacher can't handle so many disciples at once, 11 hurriedly said. Hearing this, the bodyguards pouted but could only let it go. Each of them regretted hesitating and not stepping forward to seize the opportunity when it was first presented to them. Chapter 542. We'll talk after you're dressed. Yuanwan had to attend the Golden Orchid Award ceremony that night. After her training ended, she took off her activewear and changed into a men's outfit. In the master bedroom, Si Han had just ended his acupuncture therapy session. On his bare upper body, there were countless blue-black spots caused by the needles. Yuanwan had a slight phobia of needles, so each time Si Han did his acupuncture therapy, she didn't stick around. Did it hurt? Yuanwan sat next to him and asked. Si Han buttoned up his top and replied calmly, "I'm fine." Yuanwan furrowed her brows. "Why don't I keep you company next time?" Si Han glanced at her then said, "No need for that. I'll have to take care of you if you faint." Yuanwan was speechless. He's truly a robot. Oh right. Yuanwan remembered something and her expression turned serious all of a sudden. Si Han, I have something very important I need to tell you. Si Han responded while buttoning up his shirt. What? Yuanwan stared at the way Si Han fastened his buttons, revealing some bare skin, and was suddenly stuck. Si Han looked at her suspiciously and waited for her to continue. Yuanwan held her forehead helplessly and waved her arms. We'll talk after you're dressed. I completely forgot what I wanted to say. The man was stunned at first, then a soft smile seemed to appear on his face. After some time he was done fastening all the buttons and said, "All right, what did you want to say?" Seeing that Si Han was dressed, Yuanwan was satisfied and remembered what she wanted to say. Yuanwan pondered for a moment then said sternly, "Si Han, I suddenly realized I might be a kung fu master." Si Han. Yuanwan panicked when there was no reaction from Si Han. "What, you don't believe me? I went to the training grounds with 11 today, and he taught me some wrestling techniques. In the end I knocked 11 to the ground. 11 even wanted to be my disciple." "You agreed?" Si Han asked as his eyes grew dimmer. Yuanwan looked helpless. "Oh, at first, I thought this was ridiculous and I would never accept him as my disciple. How on earth could my trainer suddenly become my disciple? However, 11 was very stubborn and even thought I looked down on his skills. I didn't have a choice, so I agreed to it. Aside from 11, there was another young bodyguard who stutters." Yuanwan spoke and pinched her brows lethargically. "Actually, I'm not sure when it started. Today I was very perceptive and more capable than ordinary people, like I already had all these skills inside me from the beginning. For example, martial arts and acting. I can do them instinctively. I wasn't learning these skills but merely adapted them as I needed to. It feels really weird." Si Han looked at her confused little face and placed his large palm on her head, stroking it softly. "It's not weird. You're just gifted." As if worried that she wouldn't believe him, Si Han added, "I'm like that too." The moment his large palm touched her head, Yuanwan was immediately infused with a sense of relief, but in the next second, when she heard Si Han's words, she was speechless. "Baby, are you serious? Me? Gifted?" Yuanwan coughed lightly. "All right, I do believe the last 4 words you said. Si Han is gifted, that's for sure. But as for me, how can I be on the same level as a twisted genius like Si Han?" Chapter 543. Award Ceremony. It was probably because Yuanwan poured everything out to Si Han that she felt much better. Besides, she should take things as they came. Even rebirth was possible, so what was impossible? At 8 p.m., the 46th Annual Golden Orchid Award ceremony officially began. As an annual feast in the entertainment industry, the scene was dazzling and grand. The media gathered to photograph those on the red carpet who were all A-listers and rising stars. Han Xianyu and Xiao Koexian would be walking down the red carpet together tonight. The two of them had known each other for years and had always been known as brother and sister in the industry, so there wouldn't be any scandal arising from this. The combination of a handsome gentleman and a beauty was always eye-catching. The two of them took up countless rolls of film the second they appeared. When the host saw the subject of scrutiny, Xiao Kuexian, his eyes lit up and he hurriedly asked questions which he had already prepared beforehand. Kuexian, the box office for Legend of the Quiet Girl, has already broken through 600 million. This really calls for a celebration. It's a pity though that many netizens don't think this film has a high chance of receiving an award. They think it's too commercialized, completely surrounded with a money-making stench, and they're also very critical about your acting. I wonder if you're confident that you can clinch the Best Actress award tonight? The host's choice of words was provocative, obviously trying to agitate Xiao Koexian and create an explosive drama. Furthermore, this topic was exactly Xiao Koexian's sore spot. As expected, the hot-tempered Xiao Koexian narrowed her eyes and was about to curse at him. At this moment, Han Xianyu sensed something was wrong, so he quickly coughed and spoke up before Xiao Koexian could. I've already asked Xianjia this question before. Xianjia said there are many strong seniors around tonight, so she won't force it. She'll do what she can and leave the rest to fate. Han Xianyu then pulled Xiao Koexian away immediately without giving the host a chance to speak. Xiao Koexian glared at the host and gave him a dirty look. Not far off, Yi Wanwan observed that scene and held her forehead helplessly. Xiao Koexian's tarnished reputation was also in part created by her bad temper. At this moment, there was an even louder gasp at the scene. Yi Wanwan looked up and saw that the next couple walking down the red carpet wasn't some A-lister but Emperor Sky's director of the talent recruitment department, Yi Yi, along with Gu Group's chairman cum CEO of Emperor Sky, Gu Yuze. This couple consisted of a delicate and beautiful girl and a tall and handsome man. Their looks were in no way inferior to the celebrities in the entertainment industry, and they held powerful statuses themselves. What was more eye-catching was that there were a couple megastars from Emperor Sky following behind them. All of them were the hottest artists who won many awards before. This Emperor Sky heavenly entourage grabbed everyone's attention instantly. The host raised his microphone and exclaimed dramatically, "Wow! This must be the strongest lineup on the red carpet tonight. Director Yi, Chairman Gu, I'm not sure if the two of you are confident about the award ceremony tonight?" Yi Yi turned to Gu Yuze in a gentle manner, appearing to sing her husband's tune. Gu Yuze didn't have much reaction as he replied plainly, "We're determined to win." The cold and solemn expression on his charming face immediately stirred up the screams of many love-struck fans. The host was starry-eyed as well. Indeed, one's manner of speech is different when one has confidence. But it's not surprising at all since senior Li Chongyi for the Best Actor award is a shoo-in and Chi Mei Lin is also in the running for the Best Actress award. Who knows, maybe Emperor Sky will be able to clinch both titles tonight. When the host said one's manner of speech is different when one has confidence, the host was obviously trying to ridicule Xiao Koexian. Chapter 544. Not her usual self, Yi Wanwan stood and watched silently as Yi Yi and Gu Yuze led Emperor Sky's entourage with all the limelight on them. Today's Yi Group was still dominant in the entertainment industry even after clashing with Worldwide and other companies, so it was inevitable they would reap a plentiful harvest this time. Previously, there were many news releases stating that Emperor Sky would be creating a massacre this time. However, they might have to be disappointed if they were trying to seize both the Best Actor and Actress awards. Yi Wanwan didn't have to walk the red carpet, so after watching from a distance, she walked directly to the grand hall for the ceremony. Han Xianyu was too busy and got his assistant to pass the entrance tickets to Yi Wanwan in a rush. Yi Wanwan held out her tickets and was preparing to look for her seat. Alas, when she saw her seat number, she was stunned. Why is it so close to the front? Is there a mistake somewhere? Yi Wanwan checked it 3 times and realized that it was the right seat, so she gave Han Xianyu's assistant a call to check again. In the end, the assistant was on the line and she couldn't get through. Yi Wanwan was in a difficult position. After all, she couldn't simply sit anywhere she liked for an event like this. Yi Wanwan couldn't reach the assistant at all. She had no choice but to sit and wait in a corner. Her head was hurting when suddenly, she heard a familiar pair of footsteps in front of her. Following that, an arm went around her shoulders intimately. "Yibai, what are you doing here?" All she saw was Han Xianyu dressed in an exquisite custom-made white suit from brand C. He was even more dashing than usual. Yi Wanwan was shocked for a moment. "Xianyu, I noticed you weren't in your seat still. Didn't Xiao Liang give you your ticket?" Han Xianyu asked. "She did, but the seat number didn't seem right. Isn't it a little too close to the front? Yuanwan replied. Han Xianyu took a closer look then said, Nothing's wrong, this is the right seat. You're next to me. Let's go. Having said that, he brought Yuanwan to the seat in front. Next to you. Yuanwan was in even more shock. Don't worry, the assistant director who was supposed to sit next to me couldn't make it, so Xianjia and I gave this seat to you. There won't be any problems. Yuanwan felt relieved after hearing Han Xianyu say that. Although the award ceremony hadn't started, Han Xianyu attracted quite a bit of attention when he suddenly stood up, walked to the back and was so friendly to an unfamiliar face. Yuanwan was quickly brought to the empty seat on Han Xianyu's left side. On his right was Xiao Koexian. The moment Xiao Koexian saw her, she smiled gently and said, Hi little Mr. Fortune Teller, we meet again. Yuanwan was a little embarrassed. Hello Xianjia. I'm really sorry I was rude last time. Xiao Koexian blinked. No you weren't. It was very nice seeing you last time. I wanted to see you again. You're so cute. If you're free later, why don't? Han Xianyu couldn't listen to this any longer. He used his body to block the two of them and reminded them. Xianjia, we're in public. Could you please be more careful? They'll start filming very soon. Xiao Koexian pouted and finally stopped. Yuanwan heaved a sigh of relief and whispered to Han Xianyu, Thanks. Seeing the way Yuanwan was so flustered, Han Xianyu laughed. You're really two different people when you're sober, and when you're drunk. Yuanwan didn't know what to say. Cough cough, don't ever bring up my drunk incident ever again. Chapter 545. I'm afraid he wouldn't be getting both crowns after they settled down. Yuanwan realized Gu Yuze and Yi Yi were sitting in the row directly in front of them, and next to Yi Yi was the extremely popular actress, Qi Meilin. The award ceremony hadn't started, but there were many people who came forward to congratulate them already. Congratulations, Director Yi. I'm afraid Emperor Sky will be claiming all the awards for sure this time. Yi Yi was dressed in a limited edition champagne-colored gown. She was unbelievably beautiful and was exchanging greetings with everyone modestly. You flatter me. The results aren't out yet, so we can't be sure. There's still a large gap between Man Ni's acting skills and the seniors. There's still room for improvement, not to mention that the strength of the other nominees can't be underestimated. Director Yi, you're too modest. How could the seedlings you personally groomed be second-rate? As for the other nominees, Luan is probably the only one who has a chance to vie for that award. Others like Xiao Koexian are simply there to fill up the vacancies. Ha ha ha, that's right. I'm already prepared and waiting for Chairman Gu's celebratory treat for getting both crowns. Yuanwan and Xiao Koexian were very close to them, and could obviously hear everything those people were saying. Xiao Koexian's expression was extremely ugly, like it could explode any second. TSK both crowns. What a big appetite, huh? Hearing Xiao Koexian's voice from behind, those people in front froze. Who in the entertainment industry didn't know that one shouldn't offend Xiao Koexian? Someone immediately changed the subject and tried to mediate the situation. Hee Xianjia. Your movie this time was quite popular as well. It broke through 600 million at the box office. Congratulations, congratulations. An actress from Emperor Sky who didn't get along with Xiao Koexian lowered her voice and sneered. We were just speaking the truth. Is there a problem with that? Han Xianyu frowned. Before the results are out, it's better to keep some comments to yourself. Dressed in a red, Qi Meilin mocked. Yes, of course we shouldn't be too confident about it, but no matter who the recipient of the Best Actress award is going to be, it will never be Xiao Koexian, right? What she said was really unpleasant. Yi Yi, who was sitting by the side, didn't seem to have any intention of controlling her own artist. Tisk, it'll never be me? Do you really think it'll be you, huh? Xiao Koexian stood up all of a sudden, extremely agitated. They wouldn't attract any attention if they were just sitting down and talking casually, but if this blew up, it'd be an ugly scene for sure. Well, I think the Best Actress award will definitely go to Xianjia and no one else. The man's low and hoarse voice suddenly resounded, and everyone turned in his direction. They looked at the young man seated next to Han Xianyu. The young man was hidden in the dim light and appeared almost non-existent, but when everyone noticed him, they realized this young man looked quite stunning. His casual and lazy manner had the feeling of a son from a wealthy family. Under these circumstances, when they didn't know who this person was, nobody dared to spout nonsense. Qi Meilin glanced at the man in displeasure. "And you are?" Yi Wanwan replied. "I'm just a nobody. There's no need for this beauty here to know my name." When Qi Meilin heard the young man's reply, she replied loftily, "Since you're just a nobody, who are you to speak?" She was an A-lister in the entertainment industry after all, and didn't have to tolerate anyone's attitude. In addition, she had Yi Yi and Gu Yuze as her backers right now, so naturally, she didn't have much restraint. Regarding her bad attitude, Yi Wanwan didn't mind it and laughed it off. She mumbled, "It's just that coincidentally, I know a little about the 8 trigrams and 5 elements, and I predicted that Chairman Gu's fortune may not be that prosperous. I'm afraid he won't be getting both crowns tonight." Gu Yuze couldn't be bothered with this argument at first, but when he heard this, he furrowed his brows slightly and turned to look at the person speaking. "You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."